Chapter 942, No, no, no. Never. Mu Yao Yao gritted her teeth. Feng Wu, I didn't know you could be bold enough to cheat in the physical tryout. She began to make up a charge to pin on Feng Wu. However, the crowd wasn't convinced. As a matter of fact, if they hadn't seen how Feng Wu reacted when she fell into the fissure, or how she had revealed her cultivation ability and killed the beast at the last moment, or how she had lit up all 7 stars by absorbing the beast's spiritual essence, they would have thought that Feng Wu had cheated, too. But Feng Wu had demonstrated her cultivation ability. Although they didn't know exactly what level she was at, judging from her swift reactions, she was definitely one of the best among all the candidates. Mu Yao Yao stared at Feng Wu. No. So what if you lit up all 7 stars by cheating? There's still Yu Minji. He'll be first. After that, Mu Yao Yao turned to look at the big screen. And she froze. For she saw Feng Wu's name high up at the top of the list. Mu Yao Yao's knees buckled, her muscles went stiff, her heart pounded, and she couldn't breathe. She stared at the rankings in disbelief. No, no, no. That's impossible. There has to be a mistake, Mu Yao Yao wouldn't believe it. She had noticed before Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan fell into the gap that Feng Wu didn't have a single star. Not a single one. But it had only been more than an hour since they fell. How could Feng Wu light up all 7 in such a short period of time? How? And aren't you supposed to be a cripple? You don't have any spiritual essence. How can you light up the stars without it? Feng Wu, you, Mu Yao Yao gritted her teeth. But someone in the crowd interjected. Feng Wu doesn't have cultivation ability. Says who? Someone else chimed in. That's right. Who told you Feng Wu has no spiritual essence? Mu Yao Yao turned her head abruptly. What did you say? It's the truth. Everyone saw it. Feng Wu can cultivate and she has spiritual essence. She's a much better cultivator than you are, Princess Mu. Mu Yao Yao yelled, that's not possible. Mu Yao Yao could ignore the words if they were from just one person. Or from 2 people. But what if it was from a large group of people? What if that group contained tens of thousands of people? Mu Yao Yao stood there, dazed, while everyone told her about what happened after Feng Wu fell into the gap. Everyone began to talk at the same time, telling Mu Yao Yao everything that had happened in detail. Mu Yao Yao was speechless. Feng Wu didn't interrupt, and only watched with a mild smile on her face. Shall we proceed with our bet now? Feng Wu said, waking Mu Yao Yao up from her trance-like state. Mu Yao Yao was speechless. She swayed, recalling what she had said just then. Feng Wu, many people were there to witness our bet. You can't deny it by saying that you don't remember it. Chapter 943, I'm in. You can have my head if you get first. But, if you can't, I'll have yours. Stop trying to change the subject. It won't work. It's all written there, on paper. We had so many witnesses. You can't pretend that the bet never happened. Feng Wu had suggested that they forget about the bet, but Mu Yao Yao was the one who wouldn't let it drop. As it turned out, Feng Wu got first. Mu Yao Yao wanted to slap herself now. Holding Mu Yao Yao's dagger, Feng Wu smiled in an insouciant manner. Do you want to do it yourself, or shall I? What should she do now? What to do? Mu Yao Yao was furious. She still had a whole life ahead of her, she didn't want to die now. As soon as Feng Wu took a step forward with the dagger in her hand, Mu Yao Yao's head spun and she fell to the ground with a thump. It sounded very painful. Yao Ying and the others rushed over, helped Mu Yao Yao to her feet, and said to Feng Wu, the princess isn't feeling well. We'll come back to the bet after she wakes up. We're taking her home now. After that, Yao Hao put Mu Yao Yao on his back and Yao Ying kept her steady. The siblings then fled the scene in a hurry. People booed them. Mu Yao Yao had sounded so righteous and unforgiving, but in the end, she had to pretend to pass out to get away. All she had to do was apologize to Feng Wu. Did Feng Wu really want to kill her? Obviously not. But all Mu Yao Yao could come up with was to run away by pretending to pass out. Many people shook their heads and were disappointed in Mu Yao Yao. As a result, even Mu Manor's reputation was severely affected. Everyone applauded Feng Wu and exalted her. They were excited for her. They only realized something serious after Feng Wu left. Didn't Feng Wu disrespect His Royal Highness? And she stole kisses from His Royal Highness. And I clapped for her. What's wrong with me? Many were overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. However, Feng Wu didn't feel any such conflict, and it was only natural that she wanted to go home now. She had been away for 7 days, and she had no idea how everyone was back home. Xiao Wu, Duan Chaoge rushed out to welcome her. Holding Feng Wu's hand, she said loudly, I'm in. I'm in. Really? Feng Wu was happy for the girl. Chaoge said, I was injured toward the end, but I got enough points by then. I had 4 stars. Adding what I got in the written exam, I'm 100th on the list. 10,000 candidates took the Imperial College entrance exam every year. From the written exam, 1,000 candidates would be selected to proceed to the physical tryout, from which the top 100 candidates would be chosen. And those 100 students would be admitted into Imperial College that year. We can go to school and take classes together from now on. Chaoge was overjoyed. To be able to study alongside Feng Wu was the greatest motivation for her cultivation. Chaoge, an indifferent yet authoritative voice rang out a few steps away. It was Mr. Duan. Duan Chaoge's father. Chaoge nudged Feng Wu. Go home now. I'll come find you later. Feng Wu hesitated, for she knew that Chaoge didn't get along well with the rest of the Duan family. Chaoge patted Feng Wu's hand, leaned over, and grinned. My dad is all about doing what's best for himself. Now that I've made it into Imperial College, the last thing he'll do is treat me badly. Chapter 944, The Amazing Feng Wu, 1. That sounded reasonable. Feng Wu gave Chaoge a nod, then went back home. Mr. Duan wasn't alone. He was followed by 3 other people, his wife, Duan Chaoyue, and Duan Chaoyin. Duan Chaoyin had been eliminated after the written exam. As for Duan Chaoyue, well, she did get into the physical tryout, but she didn't seem to have left an impression on anyone. Chaoge glanced at the screen. The system had consolidated everyone's scores from both exams and the latest rankings were already out. One glance and Chaoge knew that Duan Chaoyue didn't make it. She laughed inwardly. These 2 sisters had been so pleased with themselves before. Well, it was Chaoge's turn to be pleased now. Chaoge smirked a little. Were you talking to me? Mr. Duan gave Chaoge a disgruntled look. You're my daughter. Who else am I supposed to be talking to? Chaoge smiled. So, I'm your daughter now. Wasn't it only the other day that you abandoned me to a burglar? Is that how you speak to your father? Mr. Duan feigned a displeased tone. Chaoge ignored him and turned to Mrs. Duan instead. Gosh, you look awful. Are you not feeling well? Right, my eldest sister didn't pass the written exam. How about your other daughter? Did she pass the physical tryout? Mrs. Duan blanched with anger. Quit acting already. Chaoge had looked at the rankings, and she hadn't exactly been subtle about it. She had done it right in front of them. She knew perfectly well that Chaoyue didn't get in. Why did she even ask? Duan Chaoge, you. However, before Mrs. Duan could say another word, Mr. Duan cast a stern look at her. You can't talk to Chaoge like that. Shut up. Mrs. Duan stared at Mr. Duan in disbelief. Before all this, she used to be able to scold and punish Chaoge however she liked, and so could her 2 daughters. But now, She couldn't even say a few harsh words to the girl. Mrs. Duan wouldn't accept it. Chowga snorted inwardly and went on asking, "Did my sister get in? She's so knowledgeable and she's a better cultivator than I am. She had access to 100 times more resources than I did. She can't have failed when I got in myself. If that's the case, what a waste of our family's resources." You. Hearing Chowga's sarcastic tone, Mrs. Duan was so frustrated. "Chowga, let's go home, where we can talk more comfortably," Mr. Duan said to Chowga in his nicest voice. She had gotten into Imperial College, very few parents could enjoy that privilege. The Duan family was going to prosper. Chowga shook her head. "Nope, that home is the last place I want to be at the moment. I'll never forget how you people used to treat me." The only thing that home reminded Chowga of was 5 years of painful memories. She would never forgive them for that. "Where are you going?" Mr. Duan's face darkened when Chowga turned to leave. "I'm going to Shao Wu, of course. Did you think I could get into Imperial College all by myself?" Chowga sneered at Mr. Duan, then promptly left the family of 4. Watching Chowga leave, Duan Chaoyin snorted. "Feng Wu. She's not going to be around for long." Duan Chaoyue frowned. "I heard that Feng Wu got her ability back, and she used to be such a genius." "Ha," Duan Chaoyin smirked. "You were taking the exam and don't know what happened. So what if she got her ability back? She's going to be in so much trouble." Chapter 945, The Amazing Feng Wu, 2. Trouble? What trouble? Duan Chaoyue was confused. Duan Chaoyin gloated. "Because, she offended His Royal Highness." Well, not only His Royal Highness, but the entire royal family as well. What do you think will happen to the woman that just offended the Crown Prince, the golden boy of the Empire? Why? What did she do? Well, Duan Chaoyin then described what she had seen on the screen. What? Duan Chaoyue covered her mouth in astonishment. Feng Wu did that to His Royal Highness in front of so many people. Oh God. I would kill myself if I were her. You don't say. That was so humiliating. Oh God. His Royal Highness is such a neat freak. He's so going to kill Feng Wu when he finds out. That was why Mu Yaoyao chose to run away. No one will go after her head after His Royal Highness kills Feng Wu. Feng Wu heard none of the gossip. She hurried back home as quickly as she could. Because she was worried about her family. Qiuling and the others wanted to come out and welcome Feng Wu, but Fallen Star Yard was surrounded by guards, and they couldn't get out. Qiuling was furious. She pointed at the guards. "You have no right to keep us here. Move." However, the guards kept silent and only stared at them with solemn and intimidating looks on their faces. They didn't reply. Instead, they closed the door and locked it from the outside. Qiuling was astonished. What's this about? Are we criminals now? However, no matter how loudly she yelled, the guards were silent and remained where they were. Qiuling wouldn't have it. She climbed onto the wall, ready to jump out. However, before she could do that, she saw that the yard was surrounded by highly capable guards. They were everywhere. It would be impossible for her to get out. Lady Xuanji had been kept out of it, but it was impossible to not disturb her, with all the noise. She blanched and took Qiuling's hand. "Xiaoling, is Xiao Wu in danger?" That was the question on everyone's mind. Feng Yanfeng would never do such a thing to them if something hadn't happened to Feng Wu. And the guards had announced that they were here at the command of the head of the clan. No one was to disobey. Qiuling tried to calm Lady Xuanji down. "It's okay. I'm sure it's nothing. Miss Wu is so smart. Nothing can happen to her." But Lady Xuanji wasn't convinced. Granny Zhao chimed in, "Miss Wu isn't what they think she is. She's a proper cultivator now, and a very impressive one. right? Yes. Miss Wu is already an outstanding cultivator among those in her generation. Uncle Chiu joined the conversation. I'm sure she's fine. Granny Zhao didn't want to upset Lady Xuanji, so she took her hand to comfort her. What we need to do now is wait here quietly for Miss Wu to come back. By then, Feng Wu had just stepped into the Feng Manor. The guards' eyes flickered when they spotted Feng Wu. One of them ran into the manor immediately. Feng Wu frowned. What was that about? In the Imperial Palace. Jun Linyuan was carried straight into Xinang Palace. The Empress Dowager burst into tears as soon as she set her eyes on Jun Linyuan. My baby Jun. How do you feel? Are you in pain? The Empress Dowager's hands trembled as she took one of Jun Linyuan's hands in her own. Chapter 946, The Amazing Feng Wu, 3. Master Chu had already been waiting, and he gave the Empress Dowager a wry smile when he saw how tightly she was holding the teenager. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness needs to be treated now, so. Yes, of course. The Empress Dowager rose to her feet with Lady Northernfang's help and moved aside. However, she kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan's face so that she wouldn't miss a thing. Jun Linyuan was still unconscious. Master Chu had thought about asking the old lady to leave the room, but eventually shook his head when he saw the look on her face. He then moved on to check the Crown Prince's pulse. The look on his face was grave at first, but gradually, it relaxed. The Empress Dowager had kept her eyes on Master Chu from the moment he started studying Jun Linyuan's pulse. She needed to see the look on the doctor's face. Master Chu drew back his hand after 5 minutes and let out a breath of relief. How is the Crown Prince? Speak, the Empress Dowager prompted. Wiping away the sweat that had covered his forehead, Master Chu nodded. His Royal Highness didn't fight that frosty night beast just once, but 3 times. 3. Emperor Wu had filled his mother in on how ferocious that beast was, and the old lady was astonished. Is the Crown Prince badly hurt? Master Chu was treating a member of the royal family and he had to make it sound very serious even if it wasn't, just in case he couldn't cure the patient in the end. He said, it was life-threatening at some point, but luckily, someone already treated the Crown Prince and cleared out some of the poison. I think His Royal Highness is safe for now. So, you're saying that Feng Wu saved the Crown Prince? Lady Northern Feng chimed in at the right moment as she spoke up for Feng Wu. Master Chu nodded. That's right. If Miss Feng Wu hadn't cleared out the toxin in his system, His Royal Highness would probably have left us by now. More importantly, Miss Feng is an exceptional doctor. I don't think I'm her match. Lady Northern Feng stole a glance at the Empress Dowager. See? The Crown Prince would be dead if it wasn't for little Feng Wu. Little Feng Wu saved the day. But the old lady acted as if she didn't hear it, and she asked without looking at Master Chu, so, you're telling me that the Crown Prince is all right now? Master Chu left some room for unexpected developments, and he chose his words carefully. He should be, if everything goes as planned. Good, good, patting her chest, the Empress Dowager let out a breath of relief. Actually, after some hesitation, Master Chu suggested, Miss Feng Wu and His Royal Highness went through this together, and she treated him first. So, I think our safest choice is to invite her here to treat His Royal Highness. However, the Empress Dowager turned him down right away. Master Chu, you're our safest choice, that girl was just a temporary fix. Now that you're here, why do we need her? She was furious whenever she recalled how roughly Feng Wu had handled Jun Linyuan, and the fact that she had chosen to dig out the heart of frost essence and absorb the spiritual essence instead of taking care of her baby Jun. The old lady wanted to slap Feng Wu. Master Chu shook his head with a wry smile. He had made the suggestion because he was worried that something would go wrong now that he was Jun Linyuan's doctor. He realized that Feng Wu was unbelievably good with acupuncture after studying only half of the acupoints that Feng Wu had stuck her needles into. That girl was unparalleled in her medical skills. Chapter 947, The Amazing Feng Wu, 4. The Empress Dowager snorted. I don't want to hear that name ever again. And, she's not to see the Crown Prince or set foot in the Imperial Palace. I'll have her killed if she doesn't obey. The Empress Dowager glared at Lady Northern Feng. You, go tell Feng Wu that. Now. Lady Northern Feng was conflicted. The Empress Dowager had been a capricious old lady for years, but she hadn't always been this awful. What did Xiao Wu do? She had saved the Crown Prince twice, and she only took that heart and spiritual essence in between treating him. But Jun Linyuan hadn't needed her at the time, and her actions hadn't harmed the Crown Prince. Why couldn't the Empress Dowager be reasonable? Lady Northern Feng wanted to speak up for little Feng Wu, but she had tried several times and the Empress Dowager wasn't buying any of it. If she tried to explain to the old lady now, she would be hated alongside Feng Wu. At that thought, Lady Northern Feng stared at Emperor Wu helplessly. She believed that Emperor Wu was reasonable. She could talk to him. Emperor Wu shrugged at Lady Northern Feng. He understood what Feng Wu had done, but she had disrespected the Crown Prince and the royal family. Lady Northern Feng was speechless. So, her Xiao Wu was hated even after saving the Crown Prince twice, just because she had been a little rough? Feng Wu couldn't be any more innocent. Slowly, Lady Northern Feng rose to her feet and began to walk toward the door. How she hoped that the Empress Dowager would stop her. But the old lady didn't even look at her. She kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan the entire time. Lady Northern Feng turned and noticed that Jun Linyuan's eyelashes were quivering. Wait, was the Crown Prince awake? Just then, wretch. He began to convulse and foam at the mouth. The Empress Dowager was almost scared to death. What's happening? What's wrong with the Crown Prince? Help him. The Empress Dowager panicked and she pushed Master Chu toward the bed. Master Chu's eyes widened. What was going on? The Crown Prince's pulse had been weak but steady and smooth. Where did this violent reaction come from? Soon, Jun Linyuan's face was tinged with a gray hue. The poison had activated. Hadn't the remaining poison been suppressed? Master Chu had been planning to gradually extract the toxin from Jun Linyuan's system a little at a time, but Master Chu sat down, took a deep breath, and calmed down before he checked Jun Linyuan's pulse again. What he found baffled him. The Empress Dowager stared at Master Chu, so nervous that she thought her heart was going to jump out of her throat. What? How's the Crown Prince now? She asked hastily. Master Chu couldn't understand it. This type of reaction shouldn't be happening in the first place. Why? Everything had been fine. Unless, the Crown Prince had activated the toxin himself. But, why would the Crown Prince do that? It wasn't possible. Master Chu ruled out the possibility. However, he couldn't think of another one. Master Chu racked his brain but still couldn't figure it out. Master Chu shook his head. It's an unexpected reaction from the toxin. The most important thing now is to suppress it. So suppress it. Do it now. The Empress Dowager was anxious. Chapter 948, The Amazing Feng Wu, 5. Master Chu nodded, then took out some silver needles to treat Jun Linyuan. However, Jun Linyuan's muscles had stiffened under the effect of the toxin, and the needles wouldn't go in. Master Chu was speechless. He had to try a different method, and switched to the green light. It was a skill only mastered by supreme-level medicine refiners. However, to everyone's surprise, the pale green light only floated over the Crown Prince and wouldn't sink into his body. The Empress Dowager almost fainted. Why is this happening? Why? Didn't Feng Wu use the green light to treat him before? Why can hers work, but not yours? Why? She spoke fast and loudly in an accusing tone. Master Chu was equally baffled. He had no idea why this was happening. The only reason he could think of was that the crown prince was actively refusing his treatment. But that wasn't possible. Master Chu was utterly dumbfounded. He had never experienced something this unusual in all his years working as a doctor. What now? Is the crown prince going to die? The Empress Dowager was almost in tears. Master Chu said, His Royal Highness is suffering from a most unusual injury and I only understand half of it. I'm afraid that I can't figure out the other half. The Empress Dowager bellowed, If you can't do it, who else can? The same name came to everyone's mind. Feng Wu. Emperor Wu, the Empress Dowager, and Lady Northern Feng, who hadn't left yet, cried out in unison. Master Chu nodded. I'm afraid Miss Feng Wu is our only hope. Otherwise. He went on despite the Empress Dowager's glare. Otherwise, we may lose His Royal Highness forever. The Empress Dowager shuddered. But you told me the Crown Prince was all right. Master Chu gave her a wry smile. This is unexpected. The old lady glared at him. What are we waiting for, then? Summon Feng Wu to court. Send her an imperial edict. No, that'll take too long. My verbal command will do. She nudged Lady Northern Feng as she spoke. Lady Northern Feng was bewildered. Huh? The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at her. Don't just stand there. Go to the Feng Manor and bring Feng Wu here. Quickly. Move. Lady Northern Feng sighed inwardly. Just minutes ago, the old lady had announced that Feng Wu was never to set foot in the imperial palace nor meet the crown prince again. Now that the boy's life was in danger, the old lady had forgotten everything she had said. Although, Lady Northern Feng was glad how things had turned out. The Empress Dowager had practically slapped herself in the face. Sure, I'll go get Feng Wu now. Lady Northern Feng left happily. Meanwhile, Feng Wu had no idea what was happening in court, for she was standing right outside her fallen star yard. And the entrance was blocked by a row of guards. Not only was the entrance blocked, guards were also lined up under the walls. All of Fallen Star Yard was surrounded, and no one was allowed to come out. Feng Wu's face darkened. She knew what was going on. People were messing with her family, the thing she valued the most. Move. Feng Wu stared at the guards. However, determined to carry out Feng Yanfeng's order, the guards only held their ground and looked coldly at Feng Wu. Chapter 949, The Amazing Feng Wu, 6. I said, move. Feng Wu's eyes glinted like cold blades. But the guards still wouldn't move. They acted as if they didn't hear Feng Wu at all. Feng Wu smirked. I won't repeat myself again. Her actions would speak for her. Thud. Feng Wu raised her foot. Thump. She kicked the guard in front of her, and he hit the door behind him. The loud noise caught the attention of the people inside. Lady Xuanji had always been as skittish as a bunny, and she jumped at the loud bang. What happened? What happened? Qiuling rushed out of her room to find Feng Wu standing at the entrance to the yard. And Qiuling would never forget that scene. The arrogant guards were all rolling around and moaning on the ground. And there were more of them than Qiuling expected. It seemed that they included those who had been standing along the walls. Qiuling savored the sight and was thrilled to see Feng Wu again. Miss Wu. You're back. Sob. She rushed to Feng Wu's side, wrapped her arms around the latter, and burst into tears. Feng Wu asked, Where's my mom? Are you all right? The guards were still moaning, but it was only background noise to Qiuling. She explained to Feng Wu as she led her to the bedroom, Your mother is fine. She's just a little shaken by everything that's happened, and she's resting inside. I'm so glad that you got back in time. Otherwise. What happened? Feng Wu asked Qiuling in bewilderment. Qiuling stared back at her with an equally puzzled look. Miss, You don't know what happened? Feng Wu said, I don't. What is this all about? Qiuling scratched her head. We have no idea. Your uncle had fallen Star Yard locked down an hour ago, and none of us were allowed to leave. Just then, Feng Wu, how dare you come back? A cold voice rang out behind her. Feng Wu knew it was Feng Lu even before she turned her head. And Feng Lu wasn't alone. Lady Wang, Feng Sang, and Feng Yiran were with her. Even two of the elders who had gone into seclusion were here. This had to be serious. Feng Wu frowned at Feng Yanfeng, who led the group of people. What baffled Feng Wu was that she had gotten first in the exam. In that case, her uncle, who was all about his own personal gain, should be welcoming her warmly now. However, his tone sounded rather accusing. Feng Wu couldn't care less about his manner, but scaring her mother was unforgivable. On guard, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Feng Yanfeng stared at Feng Wu with a ferocious look on his face. He looked like he wanted to kill her now. Feng Lu snorted. Feng Wu, how dare you come back? The entire empire knows what you did. Feng Wu's eyes flickered. What I did? Crossing her arms, Feng Lu sneered. Don't tell me you don't know what this is about. Feng Wu said, I don't. Stop pretending already. You took advantage of His Royal Highness when he was unconscious from the poison. You did it at the bottom of that cliff in the snowfield. What do you have to say about that? Feng Lu asked. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Under the cliff in the snowfield? How did they know about that? Wait. Chapter 950, You Kissed Him. 1. Feng Wu looked indifferently at the group of people in the yard. Her uncle, her aunt, her cousins, and the elders of her clan. These people were all glaring at her as if she were a criminal. A criminal? Feng Wu smirked. If they had seen it on the screen, they should have learned that she had recovered her ability. If that was the case, why were they still treating her like this? So, why did you bring an army here to my courtyard? Feng Wu asked with a half-smile. Feng Lu smirked. Feng Wu, you're not going to talk yourself out of this. We all saw what you did at the bottom of the cliff. Feng Wu gave Feng Lu a taunting smile. Really? You mean you saw that I got my cultivation ability back? Feng Lu sneered. So what if you have? You're doomed. You've brought shame to this family. Feng Wu was bewildered. Why is that? I saved the crown prince 3 times. After what I did, I think my mum is going to get a higher rank now. Lady Wang smirked. Feng Wu, you can stop with your acting now. We all saw what you did to His Royal Highness. With our own eyes. You shameless girl. You've disgraced the entire clan. Feng Wu was even more bewildered, and there was anger in her voice. I've disgraced the clan. What on earth did I do? Feng Lu scoffed at her. Feng Wu, just admit it. I told you, we all saw it. You molested His Royal Highness. You kissed him while he was unconscious. Feng Lu's eyes were bloodshot red with jealousy. Many girls wanted to choke Feng Wu to death for what she did, and wanted to be in her place instead. Feng Wu finally saw the light. Are you referring to the artificial respiration I performed on His Royal Highness? Artificial respiration? What a high-sounding excuse. You're so cunning. Feng Lu wouldn't believe it, nor would the others. Of course, Feng Wu's own family was on her side no matter what. Feng Wu was baffled. His Royal Highness woke up after the artificial respiration. I treated him with acupuncture after that. Did none of these people see that? What acupuncture? We saw no such thing. You molested His Royal Highness. That we do know. Feng Lu snorted. Given how smart Feng Wu was, she was able to put the pieces together from Feng Lu's accusation. Someone controlling the screen must have switched it off when they saw the artificial respiration, thinking that she was doing something inappropriate. That was why they didn't know what happened afterward. But wasn't Grand Secretary Fong in charge of that? How could he let such a thing happen? Feng Wu was puzzled. Feng Wu, you've run out of excuses. Feng Yanfeng finally spoke in a righteous tone. Feng Wu smiled. You missed the important part, but someone out there will prove my innocence. I'm not going to admit to something that I didn't do. Admit it or not, Feng Yanfeng's face was as stern as it had been 5 years ago. You're going to take responsibility for your own actions. I won't let you destroy this clan's reputation. Chapter 951, You Kissed Him. 2. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. What was Feng Yanfeng trying to do? Go. With a wave of his hand, some people standing behind Feng Yanfeng jumped out and surrounded Feng Wu. They were secret guards trained by the Feng clan, and were only sent out in the direst of situations. Uncle, what is this? Feng Wu's face darkened. You molested the crown prince, you're going to take responsibility for that, Feng Yanfeng said. I'm going to take you into custody, then hand you over to the royal family. That's it. That's it. Feng Wu couldn't believe what she was hearing. After saving Jun Linyuan 3 times, and with her secret now exposed, this was what she got from her own clan? Feng Wu smirked. What if I say no? Feng Yanfeng said, then I'm afraid your family will suffer. Feng Wu said, Uncle, I see that you're done playing nice. Feng Yanfeng feigned a regretful tone. Xiao Wu, the clan can't save you from what you've done this time. Your only option now is to beg for the royal family's forgiveness. And that wasn't going to happen. Feng Yanfeng and the others all knew how much the Empress Dowager loved the crown prince. They couldn't begin to imagine how furious the old lady had to be now. Feng Wu would never make it out alive. Take her down. Feng Yanfeng gave the order. The uniformed guards charged at Feng Wu like beasts freed from their cages. 10 of them. They were all spiritual grandmasters, and Feng Yanfeng had gone through a lot of trouble to train these people so that they could protect him. They had thought that they could take Feng Wu down in no time. To their surprise, Feng Wu reacted much faster than they expected. Thump. 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 With non-stop kicks, she sent all 10 people flying. That capability. Everyone watched with open mouths. Especially Feng Yanfeng, who stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. You. His fingers trembled with anger, but he was too shocked to utter a word. He had expected Feng Wu to be a level 1 spiritual grandmaster at most, and these 10 people would be more than enough to take Feng Wu down. As it turned out, Feng Wu was a level 3 spiritual grandmaster at the very least. You 20, take her down. Feng Yanfeng had 30 guards with him in total, and he gave the order to the remaining 20. Yes. The uniformed guards charged at Feng Wu again with impassive looks on their faces. They moved at a tremendous speed. Xiao Wu. Qiuling and the others cried out and wanted to rush over to help Feng Wu, but she shook her head, reassuring them that she alone would be enough. Feng Wu was seething with anger as she watched the guards approach. She had gotten her ability back since Northern Border City, but she had had to keep it a secret, even when everyone was laughing at her. Now, she had been exposed. If that was the case, so be it. She would show them what she had. With a smirk, Feng Wu struck out. She kicked the first guard that reached her, grabbed the second and threw him into the third, then punched the fourth in the face. Chapter 952, You Kissed Him. 3. Feng Wu's movements reminded one of floating clouds and flowing water. She was nimble and her timing was perfect. She was invincible. 1, 2, 3. The others watched as the guards were tossed away one after another. And she threw them very far. They flew over the wall and out of the Feng manor. Feng Lu, Feng Sang, Feng Yiran, Lady Wang, and Feng Yanfeng watched in astonishment. That was impossible. It couldn't be. How could this happen? They hadn't detected any spiritual essence on the girl, and had thought her a useless cripple. As it turned out, she was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster at the very least. How could she? Feng Lu was at a loss for words. The clan had provided her with so many resources so that she could qualify to take the entrance exam. The elders had even given her special training sessions. With all that effort, she barely reached level 9 of the spiritual master stage, which was the minimum cultivation level required to enter the exam. But Feng Wu was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster already. Feng Sang's eyes popped out. That Feng Wu, that genius Feng Wu who used to outshine everyone. Was she back now? Feng Yiran clenched his fists and frowned. If Feng Wu had recovered, would he have to give her back the title of clan heir? Lady Wang gritted her teeth. If Feng Wu learned the truth about what happened 5 years ago. Lady Wang, Feng Sang, Feng Yiran, and Feng Lu exchanged looks, and they all saw hatred and determination in each other's eyes. Feng Wu had to die today. No matter what a genius she was, she couldn't walk out of here alive. But luck wasn't on their side. After kicking all 10 guards away in the first round, Feng Wu did it again and kicked all 20 guards into the air. Feng Yanfeng glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu only clapped the non-existent dust off her hands and straightened her clothes, which hadn't been messy in the first place. She was relaxed, poised, and didn't look like a soon-to-be prisoner at all. She then glanced at Feng Yanfeng. Feng Yanfeng said in a stern voice, "Are you resisting arrest now?" Feng Wu replied, "Resisting arrest? Do you have a warrant for my arrest? Am I wanted by the Empire?" Feng Yanfeng checked the position of the sun, and realized that he was running out of time. He was right. His personal valet rushed into the yard in a hurry. Master, we have a visitor from the Imperial Palace." Many people blanched, especially Feng Yanfeng. He had a murderous look in his eyes now. He believed that he wouldn't be punished too severely if he preemptively handed Feng Wu over to the royal family as a sign of penance. But if the imperial edict came first, he felt that the entire Feng clan would be incriminated, and his job at the Ministry of Official Personnel would also be at risk. Feng Yanfeng shot the 2 elders a warning glance. Elders 3 and 5 sided with Feng Yanfeng, which was why they had been invited here today. But they hesitated now. They were astonished by the ability Feng Wu had demonstrated. She had to be a genius to pull off what she had done just then. The Feng clan finally had a genius, not to mention that she was one reborn. Were they going to destroy her again? Feng Yanfeng turned his head to see the wavering looks on the 2 old men's faces. Chapter 953, You Kissed Him. For Elders 3 and 5, take Feng Wu down. Now. Feng Yanfeng growled, then said under his breath, "I'm still the head of this clan." The 2 elders stiffened. Indeed, Feng Yanfeng was still the head of the Feng clan. Both old men had gotten on Feng Yanfeng's pirate ship so that they could have ample resources at their disposal. They would be doomed if they wanted to jump ship now. The 2 men exchanged looks and saw determination in each other's eyes. The next second, they charged forward at a frightening speed. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Thump! 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 The 2 elders gave Feng Wu no time to react, and they struck out with deadly blows right away. It had only been a few months since Feng Wu recovered her ability, and no matter how much of a genius she was, she couldn't fight both elders at the same time. Both old men had cultivation levels way above the spiritual grandmaster stage. They were astonished as soon as they began to exchange blows with Feng Wu. They had thought that the girl was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster, but as soon as the fight started, they realized that Feng Wu was more than that. She was a level 5 at least. Their evaluation of Feng Wu rose. She was, without doubt, a genius. But they had to do this for their own survival. Elder 3 gritted his teeth, and when he was close enough, he whispered to Feng Wu, "Run." Feng Wu glanced at Elder 3. It seemed that he wasn't completely irredeemable. However, why should she run? She narrowed her eyes and exerted more power. Feng Yanfeng grew impatient as the fight dragged on. He was displeased. How could this be? Feng Wu was too petty a cultivator to be able to withstand the combined assault of two elders. The royal family could arrive at any moment. Feng Yanfeng had to finish this now. He leapt up and charged at Feng Wu. He moved as fast as a streak of lightning. Thud! Feng Yanfeng struck Feng Wu from behind when she wasn't looking. At the same time, Lady Wang had left the courtyard a while ago to stall the messenger from the imperial palace, at least until they could get Feng Wu tied up. They had to get their gesture right. However, Lady Wang rushed out, only to see Lady Northern Feng marching into the manor. Lady Northern Feng? Lady Wang was surprised. Lady Northern Feng was Feng Wu's godmother, but she was here with a team of eunuchs. Were they here for Feng Wu? Lady Wang guffawed inwardly. Feng Wu, you really thought too highly of yourself. It seems that all your sucking up to Lady Northern Feng was for nothing. She's here to arrest you herself. Your ladyship. Lady Wang bowed to Lady Northern Feng. But Lady Northern Feng only asked hastily, "Where's Feng Wu?" She really was here for that girl. Lady Wang was screaming with laughter inwardly, but she kept her face straight. Your ladyship, are you here to take Feng Wu to court? Lady Northern Feng glanced at her. You know that? Ha 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 ha. Lady Wang was over the moon, but she still said in a calm voice, "We knew this would happen. It's so unfortunate for the Feng clan that we have such an abominable daughter. But please be reassured, we will." An abominable daughter? Lady Northern Feng's face darkened. Thinking that Lady Northern Feng was testing her, Lady Wang made a fist and said in an indignant voice. Chapter 954, The Furious Beautiful Lady, 1. Feng Wu is a degenerate and she's no longer a member of this clan. Your ladyship, I can give you my word here. Feng Wu has been banished from the Feng clan. What she did has nothing to do with us. Lady Northern Feng stared at Lady Wang in disbelief. Feng Wu has been banished from your clan. Lady Wang nodded and said earnestly, "That's right. My husband is taking Feng Wu into custody as we speak. He'll hand her over to the royal family so that she can receive the proper punishment she deserves." However, Lady Northern Feng shoved Lady Wang to the side before the latter could finish her sentence. Lady Wang was knocked off her feet, and she fell into the rose bushes. The rose plants were full of thorns, and Lady Wang cried out in pain. But Lady Northern Feng forgot all about that woman as she sprinted off. Fallen Star Yard. Thud. Feng Yanfeng struck Feng Wu on the shoulder. Instantly, Feng Wu couldn't feel her right shoulder anymore, and she almost cried out in pain. Before she realized it, Feng Yanfeng had dragged her to his side, and he threw her to the ground. Thump. Xiao Wu. Qiuling and the others rushed out to help Feng Wu, the beautiful lady running at the front. Lady Xuanji's world revolved around two people and a half. Herself, Feng Wu, and Feng Xiaoqi, who was the half. Seeing Feng Wu fall to the ground in agony, the beautiful lady almost passed out. The strength she exerted was disproportionate to her frail frame. Shielding Feng Wu with her own body like a mother hen, she glared at Feng Yanfeng over her shoulder. The look made Feng Yanfeng's stomach lurch. The woman had always looked so fragile, as if she could be blown away by the wind. But now, that look in her eyes was colder than the sharpest blade, and she reminded him of an ice queen. But Feng Yanfeng came back to himself almost immediately. Lady Xuanji was even more harmless than a plant, there was no way she could be that fierce. He was seeing things. Feng Yanfeng patted Lady Xuanji on the shoulder, fearing that he might hurt the beauty if he put too much force into it. He said softly, it was all Feng Wu's fault. We won't blame you. You'll be safe. After that, Feng Yanfeng tried to pick Lady Xuanji up. However, Feng Yanfeng would never forget what happened next. Lady Xuanji, whom he thought was as harmless as a bunny, suddenly stared at him with bloodshot eyes. She went berserk. She radiated spiritual essence, and formidable energy gushed out of her in waves. Clutching the hand which Feng Yanfeng had on her shoulder, she yanked. Thump! Feng Yanfeng was thrown over her shoulder, and he smashed onto the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded. Holy shit! Was this the Lady Xuanji who was in tears all the time, and who couldn't even lift a small rock off the ground? Feng Wu's eyes widened. What was going on? Feng Yanfeng was the most astonished of them all. He had never thought that one day, he would be thrown over the shoulder of such a fragile-looking woman. You! Feng Yanfeng scrambled to his feet and pointed at Lady Xuanji, but he only had enough time to utter one word. Smack! Lady Xuanji didn't give him a chance to speak. She began to throw punches at him right away. Thump! 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 Chapter 955, The Furious Beautiful Lady, 2. Feng Yanfeng was a pretty decent cultivator. After all, he was the head of the clan. In her infuriated state, however, Lady Xuanji was attacking to kill. And she meant it. Every stance she used was a killing move. Moreover, her moves seemed confused and didn't follow a pattern, as if she couldn't remember them clearly. Even so, Feng Yanfeng couldn't gain the upper hand and was losing ground. You shouldn't have hit Xiao Wu. I won't allow it. You can't. The beautiful lady lashed out at Feng Yanfeng and threw whatever punches came to mind at him. Somehow, her stances were so effective that there was no chance for Feng Yanfeng to fight back. Smack! Feng Yanfeng was slapped. Thud! Feng Yanfeng was punched in the chest. Smack! Feng Yanfeng was kicked in the stomach. What was more, the lady grabbed Feng Yanfeng by his hair and began to smash his head against the ground repeatedly. Yes, she was throwing him around as if she was threshing grain. With her floaty white dress, her tiny frame, and her stunning face, she was every bit an ethereal beauty. But that beauty was holding a man by his hair and pounding his head into the ground. Thump, thump, thump. It looked very painful. Feng Wu. Feng Xiaoqi. Qiuling. Feng Lu. Feng Yuran. Everyone else. And the poor head of the clan. He looked dumbfounded and his head had gone blank. He couldn't understand any of this. Fearing that Feng Wu was going to get hurt, Lady Northern Feng rushed to Fallen Star Yard as quickly as she could. However, when she got there, she only saw all the guards groaning on the ground, as well as the head of the Feng clan, who was getting his ass kicked. Lady Northern Feng almost choked on her own spit. Who was capable of doing that? However, she nearly shrieked when she saw the person's face. Lady Xuanji. The feeble lady that always looked weak enough to be crushed under the weight of her own clothes. Thinking that she was seeing things, Lady Northern Feng rubbed her eyes, but nothing changed. As Lady Xuanji hammered Feng Yanfeng's head against the ground, she bellowed, "This is what you get for hitting my Xiao Wu. Remember this." Lady Northern Feng was speechless. Someone please give her back her old world. After her maids finally pulled her out of the rose bushes, Lady Wang ran after Lady Northern Feng toward Fallen Star Yard, ignoring all the thorns that the fall had left her with. However, her pupils contracted when she saw what was happening. Pointing in the beautiful lady's direction with a shaking finger, she was too shocked to utter a word. She was as frightened as she was astonished. Lady Wang almost passed out. Her husband was the head of the clan and one of the top cultivators among the clansmen, yet he was being brutally beaten, not to mention that the person doing it was that delicate Lady Xuanji. Lady Wang almost had a heart attack. Feng Yanfeng screamed in pain, but he finally came back to himself and yelled at the two elders. Don't just stand there. Do something. What? Right. The two elders had been equally shocked and dazed, and at Feng Yanfeng's bellow, finally realized that they had to do something. Chapter 956, The Furious Beautiful Lady, 3. The head of their clan was getting beaten up in front of Lady Northern Feng. That was bad news. The two elders rushed over to help Feng Yanfeng. They didn't actually want to do anything to Lady Xuanji, but only tried to extricate Feng Yanfeng. However, at that moment, Lady Xuanji wasn't thinking straight. She was stressed and would attack any opponent that approached her. Hence, when the two elders moved, Lady Xuanji tossed Feng Yanfeng to the ground and stomped on his stomach. Arg! Feng Yanfeng screeched and curled up like a boiled shrimp. Finding the man repulsive and useless, Lady Xuanji kicked him to the side. She moved on to fight the two elders. The poor elders. They were capable cultivators, but none of their stances seemed to work today. How dare you hit Xiao Wu? Die! I'm gonna kill you all. The lady was fierce. She gave off the feeling that she would crush anything that stood in her way. The two elders weren't her match. After exchanging a few blows, they were kicked to the ground and passed out after spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Anyone else? The lady scanned the courtyard with a cold, regal look on her face. She reminded one of the sharpest blades. Everyone shivered under her gaze, especially those who sided with Feng Yanfeng and Lady Wang. They couldn't even meet Lady Xuanji's gaze, and stumbled back involuntarily. Lady Xuanji glanced at Lady Wang. Instantly, Lady Wang stiffened, as if she was covered in ice and frozen to the bone. She had never experienced such fear before. Mother! After scanning the crowd, Lady Xuanji fainted. Although it sounded like it had been a long time, everything actually happened very fast, starting from the moment the beautiful lady exploded to her beating up Feng Yanfeng and the elders. Feng Wu finally came back to herself. She jumped to her feet, rushed over, and held her mother in her arms. She put a finger under her mother's nose. Good, she was breathing normally. And she was relieved when she checked her mother's pulse. The lady was only exhausted after using so much spiritual essence. She would be right as rain after some sleep. Looking at the lady's exquisite face, Feng Wu smiled wryly. She had never imagined that there was such strength in the lady's body, let alone the fact that she could be such a formidable fighter. The beautiful lady had to have quite the story. Feng Wu wondered what it was. However, despite how capable the lady was, both her cultivation ability and her intelligence had been sealed away. That just demonstrated how frightening her enemies were. Feng Wu clenched her fists. She had to work harder and become the strongest cultivator. Only then would she be able to protect everyone she loved. Instead of being this helpless and defenseless person when people tried to push her around. Lady Northern Feng recovered from the shock as well, and she remembered why she was here in the first place. Xiao Wu, Feng Wu silenced her with a wave of her hand as soon as Lady Northern Feng began to speak. For the beautiful lady slowly opened her eyes at that moment. She burst into tears as soon as she saw Feng Wu. Holding Feng Wu's face and caressing her shoulders with her fair hands, the lady said between broken sobs, "My poor Xiao Wu. Are you in pain? I was so worried." Feng Wu was lost for words. Chapter 957, The Truth. Lady Northern Feng was speechless. The rest of the crowd was just as silent. Where was that Ice Queen? Why did the lady wake up to become this poor bunny again? Mum, do you remember what happened? Feng Wu asked tentatively. The lady nodded. Yes. Your uncle was hitting you. He's a bad man. Xiao Wu, are you hurt? Let me have a look. Feng Wu asked, what about what happened next? Can you remember that? The lady looked up at Feng Wu with teary eyes. Next. What next? Feng Wu scratched her head and had to accept reality. That ice queen was gone, and the fragile beautiful lady was back. With Feng Wu's help, the beautiful lady rose to her feet. She then saw all the people lying on the ground, especially Feng Yanfeng and the two elders, who were covered in blood and bruises. She looked so surprised when she turned to Feng Wu. Xiao Wu, what happened to them? Feng Wu was lost for words. Mum, you beat them up. The lady finally smiled at Feng Wu's words. You're such a cute kid. That's a really good joke. Everyone stared at Lady Xuanji in disbelief. Especially Lady Northern Feng, who asked in astonishment, You really don't remember what you did just then? What did I do? The beautiful lady asked innocently. Feng Wu turned around to see Lady Northern Feng and the eunuchs behind her. They had obviously come from the imperial palace. Feng Wu was puzzled. But why? Ah, Lady Northern Feng finally remembered why she was here. She smacked her own forehead and said, Xiao Wu, quickly, you need to come to court with me. Feng Yanfeng and the others were inwardly elated. Feng Lu couldn't hide the smirk on her face. Finally, the royal family was going to have Feng Wu arrested. Feng Wu, you're done. Feng Wu asked in bewilderment, to court. Lady Northern Feng took Feng Wu's hand and said hastily, Xiao Wu, didn't you save the crown prince at the bottom of that cliff? Well, the toxin reactivated after His Royal Highness was taken back to the palace, and Master Chu says you're our only hope. So, come with me now. Feng Yanfeng and his family were flabbergasted. They were too shocked to speak. What? Lady Northern Feng wasn't here to arrest Feng Wu, but to take her to His Royal Highness to treat him? Feng Lu couldn't hold it in anymore and began to complain to Lady Northern Feng. Your ladyship, Feng Wu is disgusting. She molested His Royal Highness and offended the royal family. However, Lady Northern Feng cut her off. Are you talking about what happened in Proud Snowfield at the bottom of the cliff? Feng Lu said, Well, yes. Did I say something wrong? Lady Northern Feng threw a dirty look at Feng Lu. I don't know what you saw, but Feng Wu was saving His Royal Highness's life. You're the one with disgusting ideas. I can't believe how you, a girl at such a young age, can come up with such a vile notion. Who taught you to be so malicious? No decent man will want you as their wife. Feng Lu. Lady Northern Feng wouldn't lie about this, for she was here on behalf of the royal family. Chapter 958, Panicked. Feng Yanfeng and his family exchanged looks. Could it be true? Feng Wu had actually saved His Royal Highness, not molested him. Feng Yanfeng panicked. Oh no! He had believed that Feng Wu had done unthinkable things to His Royal Highness, which would incriminate the Feng clan later. That was why he had taken action first, so that he could hand her over to the royal family before the entire clan went down with her. But, what Lady Northern Feng said meant. Feng Wu hadn't been molesting His Royal Highness, but saving him. Moreover, according to Master Chu, Feng Wu was the only one that could help His Royal Highness. Oh, God! Feng Yanfeng wanted to slap himself. What had he done? Concerned about Jun Linyuan's condition, Lady Northern Feng held Feng Wu's hand. Xiao Wu, let's go. His Royal Highness needs you now. Feng Wu was confused. But he shouldn't. When they had been at the bottom of that cliff, she had flushed out most of the toxin from Jun Linyuan's system. If everything went as planned, he should make a full recovery after some rest. The toxin shouldn't reactivate. But it had. Why? Lady Northern Feng tugged at Feng Wu. Enough with the questions. You'll know everything after you see His Royal Highness. Come with me. Hence, Feng Wu went to the Imperial Palace with Lady Northern Feng. Sinang Palace. Master Chu was busy treating Jun Linyuan, while the Empress Dowager walked back and forth in the room. The air smelled of anxiety. Go have a look. Where are they now? She would send people out every minute or so, but Lady Northern Feng and Feng Wu still hadn't arrived. What's going on? What's taking her so long? She should have been here a long time ago, even if she only had one leg. The Empress Dowager didn't like Feng Wu to begin with. Now that the girl had yet to arrive, the old lady was even more irritated. Empress Dugu had been keeping the old lady company the whole time, and she feigned a surprised tone. It can't be that Feng Wu is reluctant to come, can it? She then added, after all, she was so rough with His Royal Highness. Will she assume airs now, knowing that she's the only one that can save His Royal Highness? The Empress Dowager grew angrier. She really didn't like that Feng Wu. She was about to explode like a volcano when an excited voice rang out outside. They're here. Lady Northern Feng's back. Miss Feng is here. The Empress Dowager looked up to see Lady Northern Feng rush into the room with Feng Wu behind her. Drained of all color, Lady Northern Feng was covered in sweat. She was too out of breath to say a word, and only pushed Feng Wu in Jun Li Nguyen's direction. Feng Wu was going in that direction when she saw the furious look the Empress Dowager gave her. Her stomach lurched. The Empress Dowager didn't seem pleased with her. Was it because she didn't greet her? This old lady was quite an influential figure in the empire, and Feng Wu felt it was unwise to cross her. Hence, she bowed at the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager glared at Feng Wu. You can cure the Crown Prince? Feng Wu didn't give a straightforward answer. She only casually said, Your Majesty, all treatment comes with risks, and no medicine refiner can claim that they can cure a patient 100%. Still staring at Feng Wu, the Empress Dowager leaned over and whispered something in her ear. The look on Feng Wu's face changed slightly. Chapter 959, Why is this happening? Feng Wu bit her lower lip and frowned at the Empress Dowager. I always keep my promises. Now, go cure the Crown Prince. The Empress Dowager looked away after that. Feng Wu rubbed her nose. She couldn't figure out why the old lady was so displeased with her. It was so strange. Oh, no, the Crown Prince has stopped breathing. Master Chu cried out from inside. Feng Wu rushed into the room before the Empress Dowager could prompt her again. And she saw that the old lady wanted to go in with her. Feng Wu frowned and said in a solemn, calm voice, Your Majesty, I will need absolute quiet when I treat the Crown Prince. I'm afraid you'll have to stay here. What? The Empress Dowager couldn't believe what she was hearing. She was the mother of the Emperor, and no one in the Empire dared to defy her. Even the Emperor indulged her whims. However, this girl had just denied her the right to enter the room. The Empress Dowager felt humiliated. She raised a hand to slap Feng Wu. Empress Dugu gloated. This Feng Wu seemed to be a stupid, stubborn girl. Zhuo Qinghuan was much more likable. However, Feng Wu only stood there and looked calmly at the Empress Dowager. She just stared at the Empress Dowager without showing any intention to go in. She made it clear that she wouldn't go in to treat Jun Linyuan until the Empress Dowager left. You. The Empress Dowager was furious. Her chest heaved and her face was livid. Lady Northern Feng steadied the old lady. Your Majesty, please don't be mad. We can stay here, right? The most important thing now is to save His Royal Highness, right? The Empress Dowager snorted, then looked the other way. Feng Wu nodded at Lady Northern Feng, went inside, and closed the door. That abominable girl. I'm not done with her. Having lived a life of privilege for so many years, the Empress Dowager was used to being obeyed and respected. No one had ever dared to treat her that way. Lady Northern Feng was worried. Why couldn't little Feng Wu get along well with the Empress Dowager? Back in the room. Seeing that Feng Wu had arrived, Master Chu waved at her. Quickly, the Crown Prince needs you. Feng Wu was at a loss over what to say. Shouldn't someone like Master Chu worry about his credit being taken by Feng Wu, and reject her presence? Why did he look so relieved? But Feng Wu had no time to think about that now. She began the treatment immediately. Junlin Yuan's skin was almost too hot to the touch. His fair skin had turned pink from his fever. Feng Wu unrolled a pack and took out some silver needles. Her acupuncture skills were excellent, and in less than a minute, she had stuck 32 needles into Junlin Yuan's acupoints. Master Chu, who used to doubt Feng Wu's medical skills, was surprised by her swift movements. His eyes flickered. He was a talented doctor with years of experience, not to mention that he had put in all his effort to learn from his predecessors. However, was he able to use needles the way Feng Wu did? Master Chu shook his head inwardly. He could find the acupoints accurately enough, but not as quickly. This Feng Wu girl was truly exceptional. Feng Wu tried to bring Junlin Yuan's temperature down with one type of treatment and clear his system with acupuncture at the same time. Absorbed in her task, Feng Wu was soon covered in sweat. While Feng Wu worked with the needles, Master Chu checked Junlin Yuan's pulse. That was weird. Master Chu was confused. Chapter 960, Won't Let Go, 1. To Master Chu's bewilderment that he had used needles in the same acupoints as Feng Wu, and even the treatment methods they used were identical, but why? The Crown Prince fought against him when he was the doctor, but after Feng Wu got here, the teenager's pulse settled right away. Master Chu frowned. He couldn't think of any explanation for that. Feng Wu was very efficient. She finished treating Junlin Yuan in less than 15 minutes, then looked up at Master Chu. Master Chu was astonished. The Crown Prince had really calmed down and the toxin seemed to have been neutralized. At that moment, Master Chu doubted his own medical skills. Was Feng Wu so much better than he was? Feng Wu then moved toward the door, but Master Chu called out from behind. Was that treatment flying cloud needles? Feng Wu nodded. That's right. That's a level 1 skill, isn't it? Feng Wu nodded. That's right. Master Chu was speechless. He had used the same treatment method, but why had Feng Wu's worked and not his? Master Chu found that unfair. Feng Wu was ready to leave, when she realized that she couldn't move. Turning around, she saw that Junlin Yuan had grabbed the lower hem of her clothes. She frowned, then tried to pry his hand open. However, the Crown Prince's grip was so tight that his knuckles had turned white. He simply wouldn't budge. Junlin Yuan. Feng Wu tried to wake Junlin Yuan up, but he showed no sign of loosening his grip. Junlin Yuan, let go of me. But he wouldn't. Master Chu was watching the whole time. If he was confused at first, he understood everything when he saw this. Finally, he understood why he wasn't able to treat the Crown Prince, but Feng Wu could suppress the toxin as soon as she arrived. It wasn't about the right treatment, but the right person. Master Chu shook his head. Youngsters nowadays were difficult to understand. Realizing that the Crown Prince didn't need him here now, Master Chu moved toward the door. The door creaked when he opened it. Outside, the Empress Dowager was waiting anxiously, and she went up to Master Chu in a hurry. Master Chu, how's the Crown Prince now? Master Chu smiled and let out a breath of relief. His Royal Highness's condition improved as soon as Miss Feng Wu showed up. It was meant to be a pun, but the Empress Dowager didn't catch it. Is he cured? Is he all right? The Empress Dowager finally relaxed a little. For now. Master Chu rubbed his nose. If Miss Feng Wu had been here all along, the toxin would never have come back. That explained everything. The Crown Prince was too powerful to be harmed by that amount of toxin. The idea alone was absurd. Seeing the strange look on Master Chu's face, the Empress Dowager was puzzled. What do you mean by, for now? Is he not cured? With those words, the Empress Dowager went into the room in a hurry. The door opened. And the Empress Dowager saw Feng Wu raise her hand. What do you think you're doing? Thinking that Feng Wu wanted to hit Jun Linyuan, the Empress Dowager was furious. She rushed over and shoved Feng Wu. Feng Wu! How dare you hit him? I'm going to kill you. Feng Wu was aggrieved. She wasn't going to hit him, but was only trying to pry his hand open. She wanted to go home now. Your Majesty, it's a misunderstanding. However, before Feng Wu could explain. Chapter 961, Won't Let Go, 2. The Empress Dowager ignored her. Walking past Feng Wu, she sat down by the bed and looked affectionately at Jun Linyuan. Is the Crown Prince all right or not? The Empress Dowager asked Feng Wu as she kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu nodded. His Royal Highness's condition isn't too severe. He'll recover after a few days of rest. The Empress Dowager snorted. Feng Wu said, Your Majesty, do I have your permission to withdraw? Since the Crown Prince wasn't in any danger, Feng Wu had just become redundant. The Empress Dowager threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. You can leave now. She didn't want this girl around. Feng Wu nodded and turned to leave. The Empress Dowager had spoken, and Feng Wu thought that Jun Linyuan would let her go now. But she almost tripped as soon as she moved. Because Jun Linyuan still wouldn't let go of her sleeve. Feng Wu tugged with all her might, dragging Jun Linyuan with her. The Empress Dowager flared up. Baby Jun was the apple of her eye. How could this girl treat him so carelessly? Stop it. The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at Feng Wu. You don't behave like a girl at all. Granny Tao, scissors. What really displeased the Empress Dowager was that reluctant look on Feng Wu's face. What was that about? She looked as if the Crown Prince was the one that wouldn't let her go. The Empress Dowager glared at Feng Wu. Don't overthink it. The Crown Prince will never be in love with you and you don't have to give me that innocent look. Feng Wu sighed. Your Majesty, that's not what I meant. Just then, Granny Tao came back with a pair of scissors. She was going to use it when the Empress Dowager snatched it away. I'll do it myself. The Empress Dowager held the scissors while Granny Tao stretched out Feng Wu's sleeve. With one move, part of Feng Wu's sleeve was cut off. The Empress Dowager smirked. There you go. It's nothing complicated. You can go now. From now on. However, before she could finish, the Crown Prince, who had been sleeping peacefully on the bed, stirred, and his face turned scarlet red. Spotting this, Granny Tao cried out in surprise. What's happening to His Royal Highness? The Empress Dowager looked at Jun Linyuan. She saw that his face was flushed from his rising temperature. She touched Jun Linyuan's forehead and there was a sizzling sound that it sounded like meat grilling. The Empress Dowager cried out at the scorching heat and she jumped to her feet. What's happening to the Crown Prince? What's going on? The temperature was so high that it could burn a man to a crisp. How could he stand it? Master Chu! Master Chu! The Empress Dowager yelled toward the door. Master Chu rushed into the room and was astonished when he saw Jun Linyuan's face. He asked the Empress Dowager, Your Majesty, did you tell Feng Wu off? The Empress Dowager didn't understand the implication in the question. She only urged Master Chu, come over here. He's ill again. Do something. Master Chu knew what was going on as soon as he checked Jun Linyuan's pulse. He couldn't say it out loud, and could only smile bitterly in his heart. He said, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do. Your Majesty, we need Miss Feng here. The Empress Dowager looked astonished. She glared at Master Chu, who smiled bitterly at her. Your Majesty, Miss Feng Wu is the only one that can help His Royal Highness. What choice did the Empress Dowager have? Chapter 962, Won't Let Go, 3. However, The old lady had just excoriated Feng Wu. She was so reluctant to ask Feng Wu to treat her grandson again. Was the Empress Dowager the type to apologize for what she said? Never. Hence, she glared at Feng Wu. Did you not hear him? Do your job. Feng Wu wanted to retort, but Emperor Wu turned to her. Go treat the crown prince now. You'll be generously rewarded afterward. Feng Wu was lost for words. Both the emperor and the empress dowager were colossal figures. Compared with them, she was as powerless as an ant. What other choice did she have, except to obey? She couldn't even let her reluctance show on her face. Of course. Feng Wu went up to Jun Linyuan and activated the green light again. Soon, Jun Linyuan's temperature was back to normal, but this time, he grabbed Feng Wu's hand. Feng Wu. She pulled with all her strength, but couldn't draw her hand back. The Empress Dowager watched in disbelief. She could cut off as many sleeves as she wanted, but she couldn't do that to Feng Wu's hand. Feng Wu turned to Emperor Wu and the Empress Dowager with a pleading look in her eyes. Emperor Wu waved her off. Little Feng Wu, it'll be a while before the Crown Prince recovers from his critical condition. Stay here and look after him. Feng Wu didn't like the sound of that at all. She needed to go back home to her mother now, and there was so much more that she needed to take care of. After that row she had with Feng Yanfeng, who knew what that man would do? But my family. Don't worry. After what you did for the Crown Prince, the Empress Dowager will raise your mother's status to a first-rank dame. No one will dare offend her again. Your top priority now is to take good care of the Crown Prince. Patting Feng Wu on the shoulder, Emperor Wu sighed with relief, then left the room. The Empress Dowager, on the other hand, glared at Feng Wu. What was with that look on her face? She wouldn't let that girl stay if she had a choice. Humph. The old lady flipped her sleeves and stormed out of the room. The Empress Dowager began to complain to Emperor Wu as soon as they were out of the room. What's with that look on her face? She was so reluctant. Does she not want to be around the Crown Prince? What is she thinking? She's in no position to dislike a boy as brilliant as my grandson. The Empress Dowager hated it when girls wouldn't leave the Crown Prince alone, but she couldn't stand it when they weren't in love with the teenager either. Taking his mother's arm, Emperor Wu slowly led her away. Mother, I thought you didn't like the idea of them as a couple. If that's the case, you should be relieved to see that Feng Wu isn't in love with him. The Empress Dowager rolled her eyes at her son. That's not how it works. Emperor Wu asked, how so? The old lady snorted. It's only natural that baby June doesn't like her, but I don't like the fact that she's not in love with him. Emperor Wu gave her a wry smile. Mother, isn't that a bit unreasonable? The Empress Dowager scowled. No, it's not. Of course she should be in love with him. Emperor Wu rubbed his nose and shook his head in resignation. An idea struck him all of a sudden. Mother, I have an idea. Little Feng Wu actually has turned out to be an ideal choice for Jun Linyuan. She's a great doctor, she's pretty, smart, and she has her cultivation ability back. His mother glared at him. What are you getting at? Emperor Wu said, well, a beautiful, smart, and talented girl is hard to come by, not to mention someone as exceptional as Feng Wu. I think we should let them have a go. No. The Empress Dowager rejected it outright. But why? The old lady said, I don't care how exceptional she is. She doesn't care for the Crown Prince at all, and for that reason alone, I won't allow her to marry him. Be Civil, 1, Chapter 963, Your Royal Highness. Be Civil, 1. Inside. Once the Empress Dowager and her son were gone, Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan were all by themselves. Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan. But the Crown Prince merely lay very still on the bed. Feng Wu smiled a little. Even Master Chu had noticed it, so how could she not? Jun Linyuan had done it on purpose. She kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan's face. How long are you going to keep doing this? Jun Linyuan slowly opened his eyes. His brooding eyes looked like bottomless pits, and they reminded Feng Wu of the coldest ice. He met Feng Wu's gaze and didn't look disturbed at all. However, he still wouldn't release her hand. Feng Wu stared at him. Let go. There was something intimidating about the look in Jun Linyuan's eyes. The teenager still struck one as the most influential figure in the empire, even when he was bedridden. Feng Wu lowered her voice. Jun Linyuan, can you let go of my hand now? Jun Linyuan wanted to tell her that he would never let go of her, but when he actually spoke, his tone was contemptuous. Do you seriously think I want to hold your hand? Recalling the rumors going around about her, Feng Wu was vexed. She wouldn't have to endure all the gossip if she hadn't been trying to save Jun Linyuan. The rumors didn't bother her, but she couldn't stand it when her family was affected. What frustrated Feng Wu more was that her secret had been exposed in the process of saving Jun Linyuan. Would Jun Linyuan suspect her of stealing that immortal spiritual fruit when he learned that she had recovered her ability? Feng Wu scratched her head at that thought in vexation. She turned to leave. But an arrogant voice rang out behind her. Take another step. I dare you. His tone was full of threat. She had always considered the teenager as someone who was thirsty for blood. Nothing good would come out of setting him off now. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu turned around and looked Jun Linyuan in the eye. What do you need me here for? My family needs me urgently now. My mum passed out earlier and I don't know how she's doing. I have to go back to her. Her bright eyes had a worried look in them. She had to leave this place. However, what Jun Linyuan said next made her stomach lurch. So, you have nothing to explain to me. Slouching in bed, the crown prince stared at her with a threatening look on his face. What's there to explain? Feng Wu fidgeted, but still fought to keep her voice steady. You tell me. With a wave of his hand, she stumbled, almost losing her balance. Thump, thump, thump. She eventually tripped over her feet and fell into his arms. Looking up, she saw the dangerous look in his eyes. He kept staring at her with a taunting smile on his face, and his black eyes seemed to glow red. Caressing the tender skin on the girl's neck with his calloused fingertips, he gave off such an intimidating air. Feng Wu's heart sank. Shit! He knew. But she didn't know how much he had figured out yet. Biting her lower lip, Feng Wu squeezed out a smile. Why, Your Royal Highness. Let's talk like civilized people, shall we? Putting her hands over Jun Linyuan's, Feng Wu tried to free her neck from his grip. Your explanation. Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu cringed. What do you want to know? Jun Linyuan didn't reply, but the look in his eyes grew more dangerous. Be Civil, 2, Chapter 964, Your Royal Highness. Be Civil, 2. Alright, Feng Wu threw her hands up in the air. I have spiritual essence now and I shouldn't have kept it from you. I'm sorry, I really am. Jun Linyuan kept glaring at Feng Wu with a ferocious look in his eyes. Feng Wu could tell that the guy was mad, and she didn't blame him. She would be mad, too, if she were the one who had been kept in the dark. However, over the past few months, Feng Wu had gained some experience in placating Jun Linyuan. She wasn't in a rush to leave anymore, for she had to straighten things out with him. Otherwise, she would be in more trouble if he learned it from someone else. Sitting down on the bed, Feng Wu tugged at Jun Linyuan's sleeve and said in a pitiful voice, I didn't mean to, I promise. It's just, the people who did those things to me 5 years ago are still watching me now. If I exposed myself too early, they would be alarmed and I could have been killed. Right? Jun Linyuan's eyes flickered and he looked even angrier. Feng Wu sighed inwardly. So, she went on. Look, my secret was exposed only because I was trying to save you, and now, the whole world knows about it. And that's why you decided to tell me now. Instead of being soothed by those words, Jun Linyuan turned into a ferocious beast with glinting eyes. Oh, no. So, you're only telling me now because the whole world knows about it. Oh, no. Feng Wu wanted to slap herself. She shouldn't have put it that way, even if she had been telling the truth. Seeing that Jun Linyuan was going to flare up again, Feng Wu took his hands and laughed awkwardly. Oh, of course not. I've been meaning to tell you, but never got the chance. By the way, when did you find out about my cultivation ability? Were you aware when we fell over that cliff? Feng Wu asked curiously. The Crown Prince stared at Feng Wu. Keep talking. About what? Feng Wu's heart was pounding. Had Jun Linyuan connected the recovery of her cultivation to the loss of his immortal spiritual fruit? Feng Wu made a sour face. He would probably kill her if she confessed that to him. You don't want to tell me? Jun Linyuan gave her a crooked smile, which made her stomach turn. Fine. Should she tell him or not? Feng Wu cringed when she saw the frightening look on Jun Linyuan's face and she blurted out, I have nothing else to tell you. No more secrets. Little Feng Wu, you had your chance. Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes. Since Feng Wu had made up her mind, she decided to stick to it. I'm telling the truth. I have nothing else to say. Jun Linyuan smirked. Leaning back, he darted a knowing look at Feng Wu, which seemed to tell her that he knew everything. Feng Wu's heart sank. She opened her mouth involuntarily, but something landed on her lap before she could speak. Feng Wu was over the moon when she saw what it was. The broken star piece. She looked up at Jun Linyuan and cried out with joy. My broken star piece. Finally, he had given it to her. Jun Linyuan snorted. Get out of my sight. That wasn't very polite. Biting her lip, Feng Wu gave Jun Linyuan another look before turning to leave. Be Civil, 3, Chapter 965, Your Royal Highness. Be Civil, 3. Feng Wu could feel the intense gaze on her back, which gave her the creeps. No one ever lies to me, Jun Linyuan said in a bone-chillingly calm voice. Those who have are already dead. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. For a moment there, she wanted to tell Jun Linyuan that she was the one who had stolen that immortal spiritual fruit. But, she still wanted to live. She would keep that secret for as long as she could. Holding the broken star piece in her hand, Feng Wu quickly walked toward the door. She opened the door and was met by 2 royal guards outside. They stopped Feng Wu as soon as she tried to set foot outside. By Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's edict, Miss Feng, you're not allowed to leave Sinang Palace. Feng Wu said, His Royal Highness is fine now. I need to go home. However, the 2 guards wouldn't budge. With no other choice, Feng Wu started to fight her way out. But the 2 guards were way more capable than she was, and she was defeated at the first blow. Feng Wu. Take me to Her Majesty. I'll talk to her myself. Feng Wu pouted. But the 2 guards only stood straight like statues and told her, no. When can I leave, then? I'm afraid you'll have to ask His Royal Highness, Miss Feng. The guards shoved Feng Wu back into the room and closed the door from outside. Feng Wu was speechless. Where had these 2 guards come from, anyway? They were as powerful as they were stubborn. Feng Wu was almost thrown off balance. She had no choice but to go back in after she regained her balance. She could only leave with Jun Linyuan's permission. She wondered how everyone was doing back home or if her uncle was giving her mother a hard time again. She was so worried. She quickly went back in. Feng Wu slowed down the closer she got to Jun Linyuan's bed. She had been so determined to leave that it was embarrassing for her to ask him for a favor now. On second thought, however, Feng Wu realized that this wouldn't be the first time she had given in to Jun Linyuan. Doing it one more time wouldn't make much of a difference. Hence, Feng Wu bit her lower lip, went up to the bed, and crouched down. She then looked up at Jun Linyuan. The arrogant teenager's face was emotionless. He looked away. Feng Wu rose to her feet, went to the other side of the bed, crouched down, and looked up at him again. Jun Linyuan snorted, then turned his head away again. So, he was really mad. Feng Wu scratched her head. What could she do to cheer him up now? Your Royal Highness, are you hungry? I can make you something to eat. Your Royal Highness, are you still not feeling well? Shall I give you a nice massage? Your Royal Highness, are you really mad at me? Sitting on the edge of the bed, Feng Wu gingerly studied Jun Linyuan's face. Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at her. I thought you left. Feng Wu pouted. I couldn't. So I came back. Jun Linyuan stared at the girl. Couldn't she tell that he was mad? Jun Linyuan, can you write me an edict? Feng Wu pleaded with her eyes. The crown prince lay down and turned his back to Feng Wu. Feng Wu bit her lower lip. So, talking nicely wouldn't work on him now. What now? Did she have to stay here in Sinang Palace? No way. Staring at Jun Linyuan's back, Feng Wu reached out before she realized what she was doing. She began to give Jun Linyuan a head massage, and instantly, the guy stiffened. Chapter 966, His Royal Highness is Holding a Girl, 1. Feng Wu was on tenterhooks. She was convinced that Jun Linyuan would throw her hands off, but to her surprise the crown prince didn't react at all. Good. He had given his tacit consent. Feng Wu's face lit up. That was promising. She then began to press various pressure points on Jun Linyuan's head, massaging all the way from his head and back down to his waist, legs, and the bottom of his feet, all the way down his body. 2 hours had passed by the time Feng Wu was done. Jun Linyuan had fallen asleep during the process. It made sense. Jun Linyuan was physically worn out, and Feng Wu's massage had cleared up his energy channels. Sleep was good for him. Asleep, he looked less intimidating and more like what a teenager his age should. His exquisite bone structure and deep-set features were almost too stunning to look at. Feng Wu rose to her feet, but Jun Linyuan grabbed a corner of her clothes like a spoiled child. You came back voluntarily, you're not going anywhere now. Jun Linyuan grunted and wouldn't let go of Feng Wu no matter what. He had been pretending to sleep. Nature calls. Feng Wu quickly came up with an excuse. However, Jun Linyuan bolted upright in bed the next moment. What are you doing? Feng Wu stepped back involuntarily, but before she knew it, Jun Linyuan had picked her up in both arms. Why you? Feng Wu was nonplussed. She had never been picked up like this, not once in both her lifetimes. Where are you taking me? Feng Wu panicked a little and began to pound on his muscular shoulder. Someone could walk through that door at any moment, and the Empress Dowager would be furious if she knew that her precious grandson, who had narrowly escaped death, was carrying a girl in his arms. However, regardless of how narrowly he had escaped death, Jun Linyuan still had more than enough strength to handle a struggling Feng Wu. Crash. Still carrying Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan kicked the door. It swung open. Outside, the Empress Dowager and Lady Northern Feng were here to visit Jun Linyuan, and this was what they saw. Feng Wu. Her worst fear had just come true. The Empress Dowager was the last person Feng Wu wanted to see her like this, and there she was. Could the day get any worse? Feng Wu hardly ever lost her composure, but she was blushing so hard now that even her hands were pink. This was so embarrassing. The Empress Dowager stood there dazed as she watched in disbelief. Her baby Jun, who was supposed to have zero interest in women. Not only wasn't he interested, he would feel nauseated if women got too close. But that same boy was now willingly carrying a girl in his arms. Rumble. The Empress Dowager felt as if thunderclaps were going off in her head. She couldn't look away, and pointed at Feng Wu with a trembling finger. Feng Wu had turned scarlet red in the face. Glaring at Jun Linyuan, she whispered, "Put me down. Now. Your grandmother looks like she's going to have a stroke." However, the Crown Prince ignored her and maintained his inflexible course. He marched on, still holding Feng Wu. Feng Wu was flustered. The Empress Dowager was trying to kill her with her eyes. Reaching out, she pinched Jun Linyuan's waist. But Jun Linyuan's muscles were simply too hard, and Feng Wu felt as if she were pinching a piece of iron. "Put me down now or I'll never talk to you again," Feng Wu whispered through gritted teeth. Chapter 967, His Royal Highness is holding a girl, too. That threat actually worked. Jun Linyuan darted an arrogant look at Feng Wu before putting her down. She was barely back on her feet when the Empress Dowager, who had finally come back to herself, rushed over to Jun Linyuan's side. "Baby Jun, how are you doing? Are you breathing all right? How do you feel? Are you in any pain?" The old lady couldn't stop worrying. Her baby Jun had just escaped death and he was covered in wounds. He had to be in so much pain. But that girl had let him carry her. Damn her. At that thought, the Empress Dowager glared at Feng Wu with eyes that could spit fire. What a tart. Feng Wu sighed inwardly. She didn't ask for this, okay? Jun Linyuan simply did what he wanted, she couldn't control the guy. Jun Linyuan glanced at her at that moment. "Shouldn't you be somewhere?" Feng Wu rubbed her head. He was right. She had made an excuse about going to the toilet so that she could use the chance to flee. However, Jun Linyuan gave an order. "Granny Tao, take her to the lavatory." The lavatory? Hearing that, everyone looked at Feng Wu strangely. Feng Wu was so embarrassed she wished the ground would open up and swallow her now. "You just don't talk about going to the toilet in front of everyone." Feng Wu screamed in her head. Seeing the awkward and frustrated look on Feng Wu's face, Granny Tao chuckled inwardly, but she was unperturbed and polite when she said, "Miss Feng, please come with me." Granny Tao was an influential figure in Sinang Palace and the Empress Dowager's most trusted maid. She could speak to Feng Wu like an equal. She waited outside after showing Feng Wu to the lavatory. Granny Tao pondered the situation in amazement while she waited. She had never seen the Crown Prince like this. Everyone saw the Crown Prince as an indifferent figure. He never said any unnecessary words, and when he spoke, it was either an order or a verdict. He had never paid attention to petty things like this before. But now, after he was severely injured, not only wouldn't he allow Miss Feng Wu to leave his side, he even tried to carry her to the toilet. Granny Tao was anything but foolish. To be able to rise to her current station was proof enough of her intelligence. She could see things much more clearly than a lot of people. Inside the lavatory, Feng Wu shook her head in embarrassment. That Jun Linyuan was outrageous. How was she going to face the others now? But she couldn't hide here forever. She would have to go back out eventually. Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager was questioning Jun Linyuan. "What's wrong with you? Don't you have any idea what condition you're in? Why did you have to carry that girl? She's not an invalid. She can walk on her own." In a word, the Empress Dowager doted on her grandson, and she had no intention to hide her bias. Standing there, Jun Linyuan reminded one of a spectacular sculpture with his exquisite features and deep-set eyes. His beauty was breathtaking. He snorted arrogantly. The Empress Dowager poked his forehead with a finger affectionately. "If you really like that girl, make her a maid in your bedchamber. You don't have to do all that." Lady Northern Feng stared at the old lady. "Your Majesty." The Crown Prince was a formidable figure all right, but Feng Wu wasn't just some random common girl. She had once been a genius, and she had just gotten that ability back. What the Empress Dowager was saying was pure humiliation. The Empress Dowager realized how insulting her suggestion was, but she went on stubbornly. Fine, not a maid in the bedchamber. An official concubine, then. Lady Northern Feng frowned. Feng Wu wouldn't say yes to that either. Chapter 968, His Royal Highness is Holding a Girl, 3. Official or not, a concubine was a concubine. It was just a way to address the concubine with the highest status alongside the crown prince's official wife. Feng Wu was too proud a girl to ever agree to that. If Feng Wu was to be the official concubine, who did the Empress Dowager have in mind as Jun Linyuan's wife? Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes. Raising his hand, he saw Feng Wu at the door. She was sneering at him. Jun Linyuan's pupils contracted when he saw that smirk. He cut the Empress Dowager off and said impatiently, "I'm going back to my residence." The Empress Dowager panicked. What's wrong with staying in Sinang Palace? Too noisy. How about your bedchamber in the palace? I don't like it. But what if you fall ill again when I'm not around? Jun Linyuan asked, Are you a doctor? That successfully shut the old lady up. Lady Northern Feng sighed inwardly. Everyone would always be trounced by someone else. Little Feng Wu was Jun Linyuan's weak point in the same way that Jun Linyuan was the Empress Dowager's weak point and the Empress Dowager Emperor Wu's weak point. Based on that logic, had Feng Wu become the most authoritative figure in the empire? No matter how hard the Empress Dowager tried, Jun Linyuan wouldn't stay. It was just what Jun Linyuan was like. He always got what he wanted and he wouldn't be persuaded by anyone. The Empress Dowager knew Jun Linyuan too well. In the end, she had to let Granny Tao pack Jun Linyuan's things and see Jun Linyuan off at the gate. She flared up again when she saw Jun Linyuan dragging Feng Wu along behind him. Glaring at the girl, the Empress Dowager wanted to scold her, but she had to suppress her anger when she realized that the Crown Prince would need Feng Wu if he fell ill again. You, come over here. The Empress Dowager wanted to tell Feng Wu off in private. However, Jun Linyuan wouldn't let go of Feng Wu. He only glanced at the Empress Dowager and continued making his way toward the gate. The Empress Dowager might be the most arrogant lady in the empire, but there was nothing she could do when Jun Linyuan decided to leave. She turned to Granny Tao in a haste. Quickly, get the carriage ready. And fetch him his thick cape. Anne. She even wanted to go out to see him off herself, but Granny Tao stopped her. It's chilly outside, and your Majesty will need to do a lot in preparation before you go out, which will take too long. You can always visit His Royal Highness after he settles down at home. How about tomorrow? Granny Tao's words carried weight, and the Empress Dowager was persuaded. They stood in the long corridor as the carriage drove away. Then, the Empress Dowager saw the Crown Prince drag Feng Wu into the carriage with him. That's the royal carriage. The Empress Dowager lost her temper again. Her grip on Granny Tao was so tight that her fingernails almost dug into the granny's flesh. The Empress Dowager bellowed, What kind of girl is she? How can she be so shameless? She crawled into the Crown Prince's carriage in broad daylight. Granny Tao sighed in resignation. She couldn't help but vent her sarcasm inwardly. Anyone who wasn't blind could see that Miss Feng Wu had been forced, and the Crown Prince was the one forcing her. However, she couldn't say that to the Empress Dowager, for it would certainly set the old woman off. Granny Tao smiled bitterly. I think His Royal Highness was only trying to use her as a blanket to shield him from the draft. The Empress Dowager asked, Is that so? Granny Tao said, It's very likely. The Empress Dowager grunted. Humph. That girl will bring us nothing but trouble. Granny Tao and Lady Northern Feng exchanged looks, and both saw resignation on each other's faces. Xiao Wu was such a wonderful girl. Why wouldn't the Empress Dowager accept her? 1. Chapter 969, in the hot spring. 1. The Crown Prince's residence. Jun Linyuan still wouldn't let go of Feng Wu's hand after they got out of the carriage. His grip was so tight that Feng Wu couldn't break free from it. She stared at Jun Linyuan in resignation. Jun Linyuan said in a righteous tone, "You came back with me willingly." Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Did she have a choice? His guards wouldn't allow her to go anywhere else. Vexed, Feng Wu bit Jun Linyuan's hand. However, his hand might seem fair and smooth, but Feng Wu almost broke her teeth on it. Feng Wu glared at Jun Linyuan. The arrogant crown prince's face softened, and he actually smiled. Are you a dog? Feng Wu wanted to stomp on Jun Linyuan's foot, but Jun Linyuan put a palm on her forehead and was able to keep her at arm's length. She couldn't move any closer no matter how hard she tried. Despite the hand on her forehead, Feng Wu pressed forward like an obstinate calf. Jun Linyuan. Stop it. Despite his injuries, Jun Linyuan could handle Feng Wu with minimal effort. She could neither bite him nor step on his foot. Feng Wu shouted in frustration. Jun Linyuan's face lit up, and he raised an eyebrow and grinned. They were outside his residence now, and in a spot where people came and went. Many saw what was going on. And their eyes widened. Holy shit! His Royal Highness was smiling. The Crown Prince, who was known for his cruelty and relentlessness, was smiling. And it was a cherubic, harmless, and relaxed smile. Was he the same Crown Prince that they knew? That was what Feng and Granny Gong saw when they arrived. They exchanged wry smiles. His Royal Highness would pay the price for pissing Feng Wu off. Before Feng Wu completely lost it, Feng interjected, "Your Royal Highness, the hot spring is ready. You can enjoy it any time you want. I'll deal with you later." Jun Linyuan sneered at Feng Wu. "For now, follow me." He then turned to leave. Feng Wu wanted to kick some ass. And she was already imagining doing it to Jun Linyuan. If Jun Linyuan landed on his face. Ha ha ha. However, Feng Wu was still enjoying her daydream when Granny Gong took her hand. "Miss Wu, please don't try anything reckless, and just go with His Royal Highness." After that, Granny Gong gently pushed Feng Wu forward. She must have used some trick, for before Feng Wu realized it, she was right behind Jun Linyuan. Thump. She bumped into Jun Linyuan. Holding her arms to steady her, Jun Linyuan shot her a contemptuous glance. "I see you can't wait." Feng Wu wanted to scream. What the hell? She wanted to kick his ass, but Granny Gong pushed her toward him. Feng Wu glared at Granny Gong over her shoulder. However, that kind old lady winked at her with a "thank me later" look on her face. Feng Wu was speechless. Jun Linyuan said arrogantly, "Well, if you're so eager, I'll grant you your wish." Feng Wu asked, "What wish?" Jun Linyuan glanced at her. "What do you think?" Then, with a light push, the door to the hot spring opened. Inside was a room full of pretty maids. 2. Chapter 970, In the Hot Spring. 2. Everyone bowed to the Crown Prince. Out! Jun Linyuan waved his hand. Feng Wu turned to run, but Jun Linyuan grabbed her by the back of her collar as if he were picking up a chicken. Feng Wu. The dozen or so maids left the room immediately, and the last one was even considerate enough to close the door behind her. Throwing off Jun Linyuan's hand, Feng Wu stepped away from him and looked alarmed. What do you want to do to me?" Jun Linyuan closed in, reminding Feng Wu of a magical beast going after its prey. "What do you think I want to do?" His face was so close. Staring at his deep-set black eyes, Feng Wu felt her heart skip a beat. The teenager wouldn't look away for even a second. Stay away from me." Feng Wu bellowed. "I'm not your match, but I won't go down without a fight." Jun Linyuan said quietly, "I'm going to take a bath." Feng Wu said, "Are you sure?" You're still injured. Jun Linyuan glanced at her. Feng Wu said, fine, take your bath. But then, Jun Linyuan said in a pitiful voice, I always have the temperature tested before I go in. You're not doing your job properly. Feng Wu was speechless. You spoiled child. It's just a bath. Can't you check the water temperature yourself? However, Feng Wu gave in when she saw the puppy dog look on Jun Linyuan's face. She couldn't take it when Jun Linyuan looked at her with those accusing Bambi eyes. She wouldn't hesitate to yell back at him when he yelled at her. But when he showed weakness first, Feng Wu had to surrender, for he simply looked too adorable. She would be overwhelmed by guilt if she refused him. Crouching down by the hot spring, Feng Wu dipped a finger in the water, then said to Jun Linyuan, it's the right temperature, not too hot nor too cold. It's perfect. You can go in now. Jun Linyuan moved toward Feng Wu. What now? And that aggrieved look on his face. Feng Wu couldn't believe that the person in front of her was that formidable crown prince. Jun Linyuan darted another look at Feng Wu, then tilted his head. My maids always help me undress. Feng Wu was speechless. Hello. You have a pair of hands yourself. However, when Jun Linyuan raised his head with a sad look on his face, Feng Wu gave in again. Fine, fine. I'll help you with that, alright? Beautiful people were the worst. It was impossible to say no to them. Feng Wu quickly ripped Jun Linyuan's clothes off with her eyes shut, and was going to push him into the water. Can you go in now? The water will get cold. Jun Linyuan went in, but he was displeased when he saw how far away Feng Wu was. My maids scrub my back. It's never enough for you, is it? Feng Wu vented her sarcasm inwardly. A neat freak like you would never let anyone scrub your back. You can't fool me. However, the crown prince gave her that pleading look again. He was simply too beautiful to look at. Steam swirled over the water, blurring his straight eyebrows, his perfectly sculpted nose, his smooth skin, and his exquisite features. Leaning against the side of the pool, he reminded Feng Wu of an emperor looking down on his land. 3. Chapter 971, In the Hot Spring. 3. His beauty was simply breathtaking. It would be a crime not to say yes. With no other choice, Feng Wu sat down by the pool behind him, picked up a towel, and began to scrub his back. She wasn't exactly gentle, but she made sure that she avoided all his wounds. At an angle that Feng Wu couldn't see, the teenager was smiling wholeheartedly. His eyes twinkled. Satisfied? Feng Wu stopped after a few perfunctory moves and asked. The smile vanished from the teenager's face, and he said in a disgruntled voice, but my maids would give me a massage. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Jun Linyuan, are you ever going to stop? Why do you have so many requests? She slapped the water with the towel in frustration. She could sense the teenager's back stiffen, and a hush fell over the room. Feng Wu wanted to smack herself on the head. She had taken it out on Jun Linyuan. Because she was eager to go home. Apart from checking up on her mum, she also wanted to get back into her ring and place that broken star piece on her beautiful master's forehead. According to Little Phoenix, her beautiful master would wake up after she collected all 5 broken star pieces. And he would wake up momentarily whenever she inserted a piece. It had been 5 years since Feng Wu talked to her master, and she desperately wanted to go back home, where she could have some privacy. Every cell in her body was screaming her need to see her master now. But Jun Linyuan was being impossible again, and was keeping her from returning home. That was why she lost it. But when she saw him stiffen up and sensed the tension in the air, Feng Wu realized that she had gone too far. Sorry, I was just... Feng Wu wanted to explain, but the crown prince had come out of the pool. His lips were pursed in a thin line and his face was taut. She could see the struggle and grievance in his eyes, as well as an imminent storm. Jun Linyuan, I. Get out. Glaring at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan bellowed like a wounded beast. He looked both merciless and enraged. He was about to go berserk. That meant he was genuinely mad. Feng Wu wanted to say something, but Jun Linyuan cut her off with a ferocious look in his eyes. Go. Before I change my mind. Feng Wu saw the madness in his eyes. She was only doing what she was told to. Feng Wu turned around and ran out of the room. She didn't make it very far before she heard the sound of rumbling behind her. Turning around, Feng Wu saw the only indoor hot spring in the imperial capital, one that was even more luxurious than anything in the imperial palace, collapse. The noise alarmed many people, and Feng Wu could hear footsteps coming from all directions. Then, she saw Jun Linyuan staring at her with a murderous look in his eyes. Go. Before I change my mind. She could still hear Jun Linyuan's voice in her head. At that thought, Feng Wu turned around and sprinted off. She ran as fast as she could. Behind her, she could hear people crying out. Your Royal Highness, are you all right? Your Royal Highness. It was Feng and Granny Gong. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu tried to convince herself that she had removed what was left of the toxin from Jun Linyuan's system, and even now, his internal injuries were recovering. He would be fine. He would. Jumping over the wall, Feng Wu headed for home, running as fast as she could. Soon, she would be able to talk to her beautiful master again. But somehow, she felt a little heartbroken. 972 Ambush in the Alley 1. Feng Wu ran as fast as she could after leaving the Crown Prince's residence. She flitted through the streets like a shadow. Little did she know, a trap was waiting for her up ahead. The Zhuo family. Sitting in his room, Zhuo Ming was playing with a transparent ring. Master, will we be able to kill Feng Wu this time? Mrs. Zhuo's voice came from the inner room. Zhuo Ming smirked. Don't worry. Unlike Blade, the members of Flying Guillotine are true professionals. Blade had disappointed him greatly. Zhuo Ming had had high hopes for Blade, but he learned from the other person he had hired that the team had been annihilated in Proud Snowfield. Good. I won't sleep in peace until that Feng Wu is dead. Mrs. Zhuo patted her chest. Zhuo Ming said, she's just a girl, you shouldn't take her too seriously. Mrs. Zhuo retorted, she's not just any girl. She used to drive Qinghuan crazy. We had to go to such lengths to destroy her back then, but she's just gotten her ability back. She just won't die. Mrs. Zhuo was so concerned because she knew that Feng Wu was more talented than Zhuo Qinghuan. She feared that Feng Wu would outshine Zhuo Qinghuan again. Mr. Zhuo, on the other hand, didn't think much of it. Don't worry. She's just a junior spiritual grandmaster, she's hardly a threat to us. Zhuo Ming considered themselves very lucky, for Feng Wu had exposed herself this time. Otherwise, the girl could have kept it under wraps and practiced in secret. That way, she would have been able to bare her fangs when it was too late for them to do anything. When that happened, they would have been caught off guard. Feng Wu is as weak as an ant. Don't waste your energy on her. Zhuo Ming smirked. Mrs. Zhuo asked, Master, have you hired someone very capable this time? Zhuo Ming said, she's just a junior spiritual grandmaster, but the Flying Guillotine hitman I hired this time is one of their top 8 assassins. Mrs. Zhuo's eyes lit up. That'll make him a spiritual elder, then? Zhuo Ming nodded. That's right. He's more than good enough to take care of that girl. Now, how about some nice wine and fine food tonight to celebrate? Mrs. Zhuo rejoiced. That sounds great. She left the room in a great mood. Meanwhile, Feng Wu had been taking every shortcut she could find to get back home. She wanted to see her beautiful master now. However, she stopped abruptly when she walked into an alley. She didn't like the feeling it gave her. All of a sudden. Feng Wu frowned, then quickly shifted to one side. Boom! An explosion went off, right where she had been standing. If she hadn't sensed the abnormality and stepped away, she would probably have been killed, or mangled at the very least. How terrifying this power was. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu scanned her surroundings. Very quickly, she fixed her gaze on a corner. You can come out now. Tee-hee. An eerie sound came out of the wall. Soon, a faint shadow emerged and materialized into a tiny man who blocked Feng Wu's way. It was a dwarf. He barely reached Feng Wu's waist, and one would take him for a kid at first. However, upon closer look, one would realize that he was in his 40s at least. The dwarf stared at Feng Wu with a libidinous spark in his eyes. What a pretty girl. What a waist, the dwarf tooted as he walked toward Feng Wu. (973) Ambush in the alley 2. On guard, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. The energy which this man was giving off was incredible. Feng Wu realized something right away. This man was too powerful for her to fight. Who are you? Feng Wu gritted her teeth. That's not important. What you need to know is this: I'm here to kill you. Afraid yet? Because of his height, Guillotine 7 here had an ego as big as his inferiority complex. He had always been scant with words and would always proceed immediately to cut the target's head off. However, this girl was simply too pretty, so pretty that he thought she deserved a few more words before she met her end. You were sent by the Zhuo family, weren't you? Feng Wu smiled coldly. But the assassin wasn't going to share that piece of information. Guillotine 7 said, that's not important. You're going to die here tonight. That's all you need to know. Feng Wu said, you're a spiritual elder, aren't you? Guillotine 7 nodded. Feng Wu said, I'm just a junior spiritual grandmaster, and there's an entire cultivation stage between us. I have no chance. Guillotine 7 nodded. He thought the same. Feng Wu said, how about showing me some mercy before I die? I don't need you to answer my questions. Just drop me some hints with your actions. Put out your left foot first if it was the Zhuo family who sent you, and your right foot first if you were hired by someone else. Feng Wu then stared at Guillotine 7's feet. It was against his work ethic to leak information on his employer, but Guillotine 7 had the freedom to decide which foot he stepped out with first. He moved his left foot without hesitation. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. So, it really was the Zhuo family. She wanted to slap Jun Linyuan so badly. Her ability wouldn't have been exposed if she hadn't been trying to save him. That way, the Zhuo family would have been kept in the dark. However, Feng Wu shook her head. That wasn't the case. The Zhuo family had locked onto her ever since she got back from northern border city. With or without cultivation ability, she was already the person that they had decided to kill. For she was the loose end they had to get rid of. Kiddo, do you want to do it yourself, or shall I do it for you? Guillotine 7, aka the dwarf, looked Feng Wu up and down with a malicious smile. Feng Wu asked, do what? Guillotine 7 grinned. You're too pretty to die like this. I think I'll have a taste of that delicious body of yours before it gets cold. After that, he reached out to grab Feng Wu. You bastard. Feng Wu stepped back involuntarily, dodging Guillotine 7's hands. That's a nice surprise. I didn't think you could do that. Feng Wu's speed surprised Guillotine 7. But only a little. Feng Wu was only a junior spiritual grandmaster, and he was a spiritual elder. The disparity between their cultivation levels was too great for her to do anything, and the dwarf believed he could play her like a cat teasing a mouse. Guillotine 7 let Feng Wu move away a little. The next second, he pounced at her again. His filthy hands reached for Feng Wu's shoulders. Feng Wu struck out without hesitation. Thump. 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 Guillotine 7 looked surprised after they exchanged a few blows. That's not bad. You're actually an intermediate spiritual grandmaster. A level 5. According to the Zhua family, this girl was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster. So what if she was a level higher? To Guillotine 7, it made no difference. Thud. After another 3 strikes, Guillotine 7 dragged his sword across Feng Wu's right arm. Blood gushed out. Guillotine 7 smiled maliciously. You're bleeding. That makes you even more delicious. This sick bastard. 974 Ambush in the Alley 3. Feng Wu felt suffocated. Why was this damn assassin so talkative? And she wanted to throttle him whenever he spoke. Guillotine 7 said, "Kiddo, are you going to admit defeat now?" Feng Wu snorted. What difference will it make? It was impossible for her to defeat him. Blood was running down her right arm. Had it not been for her special ability, which enabled her wounds to recover more quickly, she would have bled to death by now. Guillotine 7 said, "If you do, come over here and get on your knees." Feng Wu asked, "And if I say no?" Guillotine 7 sneered at her. "Then you're dead. Just to let you know, a dead body won't stop me doing what I want to do to you." Feng Wu was speechless. That was outrageous. Go to hell. Despite the burning rage, she managed to keep her face very calm. She slowly walked toward Guillotine 7. She would still have a chance if he were a level 7 or 8 spiritual grandmaster, but he was a spiritual elder. She was out of options. To this man, she was no more than an ant. The assassin gloated as he watched the beautiful girl walk toward him. Feng Wu didn't let her face betray anything, but she was secretly getting all her available resources ready. Her poisons, formations, spiritual pets, sword, and spiritual essence. She was finally less than 50 centimeters away from Guillotine 7. The assassin couldn't hide the arrogant and satisfied look on his face. Standing on high ground, he looked down at Feng Wu in a condescending manner. To a spiritual elder like him, Feng Wu, a spiritual grandmaster, was like a doll with which he could do whatever he wanted. Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu cried out all of a sudden. The Crown Prince? The assassin jumped. Everyone in the Junwu Empire knew who Jun Linyuan was, and everyone feared and was intimidated by that name. The assassin looked over his shoulder involuntarily. However, the next second thud. Feng Wu struck out. She had gathered all her spiritual essence into the tip of her foot. What happened was quicker than words could describe. She kicked the man in his groin. She wouldn't have used such an ignoble move if it wasn't for the perilous situation she was in. She had to do it to save her own life. Feng Wu spared no effort with that kick, and even outperformed herself a little. Thud. She kicked Guillotine 7 right in his weakest spot. Arg! Guillotine 7 screamed in pain. He glared at Feng Wu so hard that his eyes popped. They turned bloodshot red. Feng Wu. Guillotine 7 growled. That was the opening Feng Wu was looking for. Obviously, she couldn't run back home, for no one there was powerful enough to fight him. Going back home now would only put her family in danger. Hence, Feng Wu ran in the direction she had come from. Jun Linyuan, help! The assassin stared at Feng Wu in disbelief as she ran off. The pain was excruciating, but an assassin's instinct enabled him to sprint off after her. You brat! Stop right there! He wanted to cut Feng Wu into 1,000 pieces. The girl had badly wounded his genitals. He could be ruined forever. This girl had to die for what she did to him. The assassin pressed a few vital points on the lower half of his body. 975 Ambush in the Alley 4. He pressed a few vital points to numb the sensation in his groin so that the pain wouldn't be as unbearable. The next second, he dashed off after Feng Wu. 1000 m, 500 m, 300 m. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder to find the man coming after her like a shooting arrow. Her heart sank. Thud. His sword lunged at her at an impossible angle. Feng Wu's stomach lurched, and she shifted to one side to dodge the blade. However, the sword seemed to have a life of its own. It turned in the air and was still aimed at Feng Wu's heart. The blade glinted. Feng Wu was out of moves. She couldn't run away from the sword, but she could choose where she was going to get hurt. Thud. The sword made a gash in Feng Wu's left arm. Blood oozed out. The sword spun in the air, as if it was fueled by magic. It followed Feng Wu everywhere and turned when Feng Wu did. Thud. Thud. It hit Feng Wu repeatedly. On her face, her body, her arms, her legs. In a matter of seconds, Feng Wu was cut dozens of times. Some of the cuts were shallow and some deep. Of course they were painful. Those cuts almost crippled Feng Wu. Blood was running down all over Feng Wu's body, painting her white dress red. She looked like she had jumped into a pool of blood. The sight was terrifying. There were even 3 cuts on her beautiful face. Feng Wu had suffered from injuries and blood loss in Proud Snowfield earlier, and these cuts only exacerbated her condition. Without the support of her sword, she wouldn't even be able to stand on her feet. By then, the assassin had caught up to her, and he glared at Feng Wu with his bloodshot eyes. "You bitch! You tricked me!" The dwarf pointed at Feng Wu with his sword, then slashed down at her head with the blade. He had forgotten all about her beauty. The only thing he could think of now was killing her to vent his rage. All his spiritual essence was concentrated in the blade. The energy rushed toward Feng Wu like a raging storm. Sensing the formidable energy, Feng Wu wanted to run, but the blade moved faster than she did. Thud! At that critical moment, a fluffy little thing appeared on top of Feng Wu's head. The assassin's blade landed on Feng Tutu. And it made a metallic clank. "Aw!" Feng Tutu cried out in pain and rubbed its head with its front paws. That hurt. Feng Wu took Feng Tutu off her head right away and was relieved to see that there wasn't a scratch on the cub. Guillotine 7 stared in disbelief. His sword couldn't even make a dent in the little thing. What on earth was this creature? Before Guillotine 7 realized what was happening, a palm-sized bird materialized and spat out a fireball at his groin. Ouch! Caught off guard, Guillotine 7 was hit by the fire, and he burst into tears at the pain. Feng Wu knew that there was only so much time her little friends could buy her. This assassin was simply too powerful for her to fight. She was right. Infuriated, Guillotine 7 struck out again. Thud! Thud! Little Phoenix and Feng Tutu were both caught in the sudden surge of energy. Feathers and fur flew in the air. They were from both the bird and the cub. Feng Wu opened her eyes wide in panic. Her 2 little friends had jumped out to save her in a life-and-death moment, and both of them wound up trapped by Guillotine 7's sword. If she didn't do something now, they would be killed. "976 Beautiful Master 1. It broke Feng Wu's heart to see her 2 pets trapped by the dwarf's sword. She rushed over to help them, forgetting about her own safety. However, she was then trapped herself. Guillotine 7 guffawed and said in a malicious voice, "You worthless girl, die." Feng Wu felt an excruciating pain after Guillotine 7 shouted out those words. The blade cut her skin open repeatedly, creating numerous wounds. Most of Little Phoenix's feathers and Feng Tutu's fur were gone, and they were covered in cuts as well. Was she going to die here today? Feng Wu despaired when she realized how inferior she was compared with the dwarf. She wondered from time to time how she would die, but getting assassinated hadn't crossed her mind. It seemed only like yesterday that she had returned to the imperial capital. She still had so many plans. She hadn't finished collecting all the 5 broken star pieces to wake her master up, she hadn't made switching Wanpei, she hadn't. There was so much that she hadn't done yet. But was she going to die now? Guillotine 7 charged out as he aimed his sword at Feng Wu's forehead. It drew closer. 1 m, 50 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 10 cm. The tip of the blade was about to touch her forehead. Even God himself wouldn't be able to save her if the sword went through her head. At that critical moment, a quiet, genteel voice rang out in Feng Wu's head. Hit him in the Tianjing vital point. That voice. It was unhurried, majestic, and she knew who it belonged to. Feng Wu turned around to see a shadow standing next to her. He wore a floaty white robe and he cut a dashing figure just by standing there. His hands tucked in his wide sleeves, he looked so elegant that he reminded one of an unreachable snow mountain on the horizon. Even in a critical moment like this, he was still perfectly composed. The look on his face was as mild as moonlight shining through the clouds, as if everything was under his control and nothing would ever shake him. Master. It was her beautiful master. Her beautiful master dressed all in white had just appeared next to her like an immortal descending to earth. Feng Wu burst into tears. Instead of looking at Feng Wu, her master only observed Guillotine 7. Feng Wu understood right away. Her master was going to teach her how to fight. The moment her master showed up, Feng Wu felt that nothing in the world could stop her. The Tianjing vital point, was it? The next second, Feng Wu moved swiftly with phoenix dance and twisted her body at an impossible angle. Then, she aimed her dagger at Guillotine 7's arm. For Tianjing was on the arm. Not many people in the Junwu Empire could identify vital points as accurately as Feng Wu. That was it. Thud. Caught off guard, Guillotine 7 was stabbed in the arm. Ah! Guillotine 7 screamed in pain. He couldn't hear Mu Jojo's voice and was unaware of the instruction the latter had given Feng Wu. It had never crossed his mind that Feng Wu could actually fight back. For a split second, Guillotine 7 almost dropped his sword. Feng Wu grew much more confident after that successful strike. Just because she was a whole cultivation stage inferior to him didn't mean that she was bound to lose. With her beautiful master's help, she could do this. Her beautiful master was the most incredible man on the whole continent. Mu Jojo casually stood there with eyes as calm as still water. He said quietly, "Use the 13th stance, star and moon, flying dragon." With her beautiful master's help, Feng Wu was unstoppable. She had forgotten all about her wounds and she was full of energy. Her beautiful master was watching and she had to do her best. Once Feng Wu switched from defense to attack, things turned south for Guillotine 7. 977 Beautiful Master 2. He stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. What had gotten into this stupid girl? Had she lost her mind? Even with his injury, he still had the capability of a level 8 or 9 spiritual grandmaster. This girl, on the other hand, was a level 5 at most. Yet, she had stopped defending herself and started to fight back with killing moves. It just so happened that every time she struck out, it was as if she had anticipated his next move, and she was able to block all his strikes. Before long, the two of them had switched positions. Feng Wu was the one closing in on him and the dwarf became the one steadily losing ground. How was that even possible? Guillotine 7 couldn't for the life of him figure it out. He was one of the top 8 assassins of his organization, but he couldn't even handle a level 5 spiritual grandmaster now. This couldn't be right. Seeing that the tide had turned, Guillotine 7 spun around, ready to escape. As the saying went, where there was life, there was hope. He would lose some money and get laughed at for a while if he dropped this case now, but if he stayed here, he might die. Guillotine 7 turned to flee, but Feng Wu wasn't going to give him that chance. Her beautiful master seemed to be using Guillotine 7 as a training puppet for Feng Wu. Hit him in Jiaoxin. Tianqi. Lao Gong. Feng Wu grew more courageous as she fought on, and she even forgot the fact that she was covered in blood herself. She fought as if there was no tomorrow. It shattered Guillotine 7's confidence completely, and he began to question what he was doing here. Whoosh! Feng Wu's next strike aimed right for Guillotine 7's heart. Thud! Guillotine 7 stared in disbelief as Feng Wu's flaming sword pierced his chest. No. Guillotine 7 couldn't process this turn of events. Feng Wu was so much weaker than him. Why? Why was she able to fight so valiantly all of a sudden? She had gotten all excited. As if someone was helping her. Feng Wu twisted flaming sword in his chest. HGH. Blood gushed out of Guillotine 7's mouth, and his face crumpled. In the end, he collapsed to the ground with a thump. Feng Wu swayed. She was exhausted and her knees buckled. She fell to the ground. The next second, her beautiful master was by her side. Master. Her master's wide white sleeves covered her. He was as elegant and graceful as ever. Master. Feng Wu cried and laughed at the same time, and she trembled with excitement. Raising a blood-stained hand, she tried to touch his face. However, her fingers went right through him. It wasn't his physical form, but only a shadow. Cough, cough. He coughed all of a sudden, and his fair cheeks flushed. Cough, cough. Feng Wu was flustered. How could this happen? Wasn't her master in his spiritual form? Could he get sick in that state? Master. Master, Feng Wu had never felt this anxious before. She tried to take her master's hand, but all she could grab was empty air. Feng Wu cried like a 3-year-old. Once the flush faded, her master's face turned pale. He looked at Feng Wu affectionately with the most gentle smile on his face. He was unbelievably stunning to begin with, and the smile only added to his beauty. You silly girl. I'm all right. He then sat down by a tree and let Feng Wu use his lap as her pillow. Lying on his knees, Feng Wu felt like a child again. She only calmed down when his complexion returned to normal. 978 Beautiful Master 3. Master, you're awake. Does this mean that you can stay with me forever? With her beautiful master around, Feng Wu seemed to find her innocent self again. It was as if the world was her backyard and she could live like a carefree princess. Her beautiful master's smile was gentle and peaceful. He smiled at Feng Wu, as if he was looking at his favorite child. But then, he shook his head. Feng Wu's heart sank and she looked up at him. So. 7 days. His eyes were the darkest black. Only 7 days, Feng Wu bit her lower lip and sighed. Well, it was better than nothing. Feng Wu clenched her fists. She made a mental note that she would find all 5 broken star pieces. That way, her beautiful master would stay with her forever. She looked forward to that day. Just then, she heard light footsteps nearby. She realized that the fight had drawn some attention. She couldn't leave the assassin's body here. Other people might be able to learn something from it if they studied it carefully. Feng Wu snorted, then took a bottle of corpse-dissolving solution out of her sleeve. Sizzle. Soon, Guillotine 7 turned into a pool of pale yellow liquid. Feng Wu then took everyone home. Qiuling was the first to see Feng Wu when she got home, and she almost screamed. Feng Wu silenced her with a hand gesture. Qiuling burst into tears. Miss, were you tortured? Was it His Majesty? Qiaoge was there as well, and she was furious. I thought you saved the crown prince. Why would they do this to you? I need to talk to those people. Qiaoge then rushed toward the door. Baffled, Feng Wu stopped her right away. It's not what you think. Just stay put. So, what happened? By then, everyone had arrived, and they all shed tears when they saw how badly hurt Feng Wu was. Luckily, the beautiful lady had already gone to bed. She would pass out from distress if she saw this. Looking around the room, Feng Wu took a deep breath and decided to tell them the truth. This was the start of the Zhuo family's revenge, and they had to be on guard now. She told them about the assassination just then. The Zhuo family. They tried to kill you. I can't believe this. That's just outrageous. Feng Wu looked around the room with a solemn look in her eyes. But they did just try, and there's nothing we can do. The crowd was speechless. Chaoga asked, what are we going to do now? Feng Wu said calmly, don't get too wound up. After Guillotine 7, I don't think they'll send another killer for a while. What worries me now isn't my own safety, but yours. Qiuling said, Miss, we'll be fine. As long as we stay at home. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. Of course you can stop going out, but we're a wall away from the street outside. What will you do if the Zhuo family sends the next killer here? You won't stand a chance. Then. Everyone looked at Feng Wu nervously. Feng Wu studied their faces carefully. She had come up with a plan already. Her beautiful master would be here for 7 days, and she would have the Tai formation ready in that time. It would cover the entire area from Fang Manor to Fallen Star Yard. Then. Feng Wu was going to dig a tunnel from Fallen Star Yard to Grand Secretary Fang's house. (979) Beautiful Master 4. If anything happened, they would be able to retreat to Fang Manor, where they could hide in the center of the formation. Even an assassin like Guillotine 7 wouldn't be able to touch them there. And there was no time to waste. Feng Wu turned to Qiuling. Run a bath for me, please. I need to get changed. Miss, let me help you with that. Qiuling burst into tears again when she saw Feng Wu's blood-stained clothes. She had to turn her face away, so that Feng Wu wouldn't see her tears. Feng Wu was going to turn her down when Qiuling said hastily, but, Miss, the blood has already dried up and your clothes are stuck to your wounds. You could tear those cuts open again. Plus, you can't treat the wounds on your back, Qiuling said in a pleading voice. Alright, I'll let you do it. Feng Wu looked at Chaoga, Feng Xiaoqi, Uncle Qiu, and the others in turn. We're facing some very tough enemies, so you'll have to work harder on your cultivation. We'll protect this family together. Yes. Feng Wu's little speech got everyone's adrenaline pumping. Fighting back their tears, they returned to their rooms and started cultivating right away. Before, the sense of urgency hadn't been as pressing, and they hadn't felt the need to practice as soon as they opened their eyes. But danger was approaching now. Every moment could mean life or death, and they had to put in all their efforts. Qiuling helped Feng Wu into the bathroom. Feng Wu gave Qiuling a wry smile as the latter slowly cut her clothes off. It'll take forever. Don't bother. After that, Feng Wu climbed into the wooden tub and sat down in the hot water. The air filled with steam. Qiuling's eyes widened. For the water turned red right away. Qiuling had finally stopped crying, but she burst into tears again. Feng Wu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why do you have so many tears? Don't cry. Qiuling was almost out of breath. Other young ladies would cry their eyes out when they poke their fingers with a sewing needle, but, Miss, you. Qiuling went on crying as she poured hot water over Feng Wu's shoulders. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. I'm used to this. And those words sent Qiuling into tears all over again. Feng Wu shook her head in resignation. Alright. I'll stop talking like that, okay? To Feng Wu, getting hurt had become a part of life. She didn't mind getting injured every day if it meant that she would be able to talk to her master. After Feng Wu finally got rid of all the blood, Qiuling helped her out of the tub, treated all her wounds, then bandaged her up. The room almost felt too quiet. Feng Wu turned around and saw that her maid was crying again. Patting Qiuling on the head, Feng Wu sighed. I'll be more careful from now on. Happy? Qiuling's eyes were red from all the crying. She knew very well that her mistress had a lot on her shoulders. Hence, Chilling made a mental note to work harder on her cultivation so that she could share some of that responsibility, even just a little. Miss, is there a crash course in cultivation? Feng Wu had put on some new clothes, and had been about to go out, when Chilling asked the question. It had to be because of her wounds. Turning around, Feng Wu looked Chilling in the eye. A crash course comes with high risks. You can injure yourself in the process. You really don't have to. 980 Beautiful Master 5. I'm not afraid of risks. I just want to take some of the burden off your shoulders. Chilling knelt down and prostrated herself on the floor. She had never sounded so serious. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Chilling went on. I'm only a level 3 spiritual master and my progress is just too slow. Miss. Feng Wu said, what if I tell you a shortcut, but there's a 50% chance that you'll die in the process? I'm willing to take that risk. Feng Wu said, you have 7 days to think about it. She then left the bathroom with a solemn look on her face. Her family was on edge because she wasn't powerful enough. They only wanted to help her. Feng Wu knew that she had to get stronger. There was no time to waste. She arrived at Feng Manor next door. Steward Feng wasn't surprised to see her. Miss Feng, my master is expecting you. The usual place. Feng Wu nodded. The usual place referred to Grand Secretary Feng's study. The room smelled of sandalwood incense. Grand Secretary Feng was sitting cross-legged on a rush cushion with his eyes closed. The evening sunlight poured in through the window, creating a warm glow around his body. You're here. He opened his eyes. Feng Wu bowed. She was aware of the pressure the old man had had to endure when she had taken the exam in the snowfield, not to mention all the help he had given her. Sit. Grand Secretary Feng pointed at another rush cushion. Feng Wu sat down opposite Grand Secretary Feng and smiled at him. The old man had a sharp nose. One sniff and he recognized the smell of blood and herbs. Did Her Majesty the Empress Dowager torture you? Grand Secretary Feng narrowed his eyes. He was angry. Feng Wu waved her hands immediately. No, Her Majesty had nothing to do with this. I was injured after I left the palace. Grand Secretary Feng stared at her. What happened? After everything they had been through together, Feng Wu now considered Grand Secretary Feng a trustworthy elder, and Grand Secretary Feng regarded Feng Wu as the finest youngster he knew. In a casual tone, Feng Wu related what happened on her way back home. Her nonchalant manner only made her narration more gripping. That's outrageous. Infuriated, Grand Secretary Feng smacked the floor. How dare that Zhuo Ming? How dare the Zhuo family? By then, Grand Secretary Feng had figured everything out. So, the Zhuo family was the reason you lost your cultivation ability 5 years ago? Feng Wu snorted. Zhuo Qinghuan was the last one to show up for the occasion. She destroyed my true phoenix blood, thinking that it would make her the only living person with true phoenix blood. That's the last piece of the puzzle, then. Grand Secretary Feng's face had turned livid. He had asked around himself, and the information he received said that Feng Wu had crippled herself because she got greedy. Something then went wrong during her cultivation. Grand Secretary Feng would have believed it if he hadn't come to know Feng Wu personally. Once he got to know her better, he realized how smart and meticulous the girl was. What he had been told could only be a rumor. He had had a speculation of his own that it had been the Zhuo family's doing. What Feng Wu just told him fit his theory perfectly. That Zhuo Ming has gone too far. Grand Secretary Feng was furious, which wasn't like his usual self at all. Zhuo Qinghuan destroyed your true phoenix blood, which resulted in the annulment of your engagement. She then took your place in Firmament Palace and became the goddess of that palace. TCH. Grand Secretary Feng could only imagine how frustrated and helpless Feng Wu must have felt back then. At that thought, he turned to look at Feng Wu. "981 Beautiful Master 6. However, the girl was so unperturbed and at ease when she talked about it now. He couldn't sense any rage in her. Other people would have been utterly shattered if they had been in her place. This girl, on the other hand, had been able to get her ability back. What's harder than becoming a genius is losing that position but being able to climb back up again." Grand Secretary Fang nodded at Feng Wu in approval. One could only cultivate such a mentality after going through hell. This girl was meant to be great. Feng Wu smiled. "But the Zuo family has found out about my recovery, and things will only get harder for me." After a pause, she went on. "I'm not worried about them coming after me, but I'm concerned about my family's safety." Grand Secretary Fang said in a solemn voice, "I might have retired from court, but many people still owe me large favors from over the years. I can easily find a few able men to help you with that." Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She was here today to talk about the Tai formation as well as her family's safety. Grand Secretary Fang had been the head of the cabinet for years, with hundreds of subordinates under him. His uprightness had earned him a lot of followers, and he had an unbelievable number of resources. Feng Wu asked, "Is it possible to find some spiritual elders?" Grand Secretary Fang nodded. "Masters of that capability can't be hired with money. However, you're great in both formations and medical skills, which should be enough to get you the help you need." "I'll ask around." Feng Wu said, "All right. It would be great if her skills in formation and medicine could attract loyal guards." "I've been meaning to ask you," said Grand Secretary Fang, "what's your relationship with His Royal Highness? Why did you kiss him when he was unconscious?" Grand Secretary Fang was probably the only one who could ask that question outright. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. "I have no idea what happened. Why does everyone know about my cultivation ability?" She had had her hands full ever since she got out of Proud Snowfield. After confronting Mu Yao Yao with their bet, she had been summoned by the royal family. Then came the assassination on her way back home from the Crown Prince's residence. With everything that had happened, she was only able to catch her breath now. Grand Secretary Fang sighed in resignation at Feng Wu's question. He then told Feng Wu what he had seen on the screen. Only then did Feng Wu see the light. So that was it. So, everyone only got as far as seeing me kiss Jun Linyuan. They didn't know what happened after that. Feng Wu had never felt so wronged. Grand Secretary Fang nodded. "That's right." Feng Wu rubbed her forehead. "It was all Emperor Wu's fault. His Majesty shouldn't have switched off the screen." Grand Secretary Fang asked, "What do you mean?" Feng Wu then described to Grand Secretary Fang what happened next in resignation. "I was giving him artificial respiration, not kissing him. In layman terms, I was trying to make him breathe again. Jun Linyuan would be long dead if I didn't do that." "What kiss?" "I would never kiss him willingly." "I can't believe it." Grand Secretary Fang glanced at Feng Wu. "Every girl in the empire is in love with His Royal Highness. Are you sure you're not one of them?" Feng Wu snapped, "Never. That guy is impossible. He's arrogant, full of himself, narcissistic, unreasonable, bossy, opinionated." She went on listing all his flaws. "In short, I'll never fall for a man like Jun Linyuan." Grand Secretary Fang found the girl's attitude baffling. Wasn't she trying a little too hard with her denial? 982 The Wonderful Crown Prince 1. "Grandpa Fang, what did you say?" Feng Wu didn't hear what he said. Grand Secretary Fang cleared his throat. "Well, I just think that if you want, there's a shortcut you can take." "A shortcut?" Feng Wu glanced at Grand Secretary Fang in bewilderment. Grand Secretary Fang nodded. "To be honest, although His Majesty is still in the prime of his life, His Royal Highness has become an indispensable figure. Just imagine what will happen once he takes the throne. That is to say, this empire will be under His Royal Highness's control for a very long time. Feng Wu frowned a little. Grand Secretary Fang said, so, in layman terms, if you can become a friend of His Royal Highness, it'll make your life much easier. The frown on Feng Wu's face grew bigger. Grand Secretary Fang said, no one would dare touch your family, and you can stop worrying about the Zhou family. You don't have to live such a hard life. Feng Wu smiled. Grandpa Fang, are you saying that I should bat my eyelashes at him and show him a little leg? She shook her head. I know that His Royal Highness finds me attractive, but all beauty shall fade. No one can guarantee that he'll stay interested in me forever. I can only protect my family when I'm strong enough myself. Everyone and everything can change. At the end of the day, I can only count on myself. Feng Wu had considered turning to Jun Linyuan for help, but it was too risky. The guy was too capricious. He did everything on a whim. He could dote on someone one moment, and yell at them for no reason the next. She never knew what she did each time to set him off. The idea of entrusting her and her family's safety to the care of Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu shook her head. She could only trust herself to do that. And there's more to it. The main reason the Zhou family set me up back then was because of my marriage contract with Jun Linyuan. I'll only bring trouble on myself if I hang out with him, Feng Wu explained. Grand Secretary Fang darted a glance at Feng Wu. You can be so silly sometimes. Huh? Feng Wu was bewildered. Grand Secretary Fang said grumpily, take advantage of his influence. With how smart Feng Wu was, she saw the light right away. She began to mull over Grand Secretary Fang's suggestion. Grand Secretary Fang was reassured when he saw that Feng Wu was considering the possibility. Jun Linyuan had more influence than he could use, and she could borrow that, which would make her future much more promising. He just hoped that the girl wouldn't offend Jun Linyuan deliberately anymore. Feng Wu scratched her head. Well, I'll think about that. Jun Linyuan might not let me, anyway. He's stingy like that. Wait, Feng Wu smacked her forehead. After the long chat, she almost forgot what she was here for. Grandpa Fang, do you have everything now? That was why she had come here today. Fearing that her family would be in danger, she decided that she would set up the Tai formation as soon as possible. It would keep her family safe as well as help with their cultivation. Grand Secretary Fang had started to gather the materials after Feng Wu entered Proud Snowfield. Luckily, Grand Secretary Fang had pupils and old friends all over the continent, and he was very well connected. No matter how rare the material was, someone would be able to send it to the imperial capital in a matter of days. Grand Secretary Fang showed Feng Wu a list. It was from Feng Wu herself, and everything on that list had been circled with red ink. Grand Secretary Fang said, everything is here, and I placed them in the vault. Come, let's have a look and see if they've gotten everything right. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.